Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Izuku Midoriya became the Iron Hero Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Nizu from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Izuku was sitting in the back of his mom's car crying because he was just told he can't become a hero because he's quirkless. "Sweetie, is there anything you want to do?" said Inko, desperately trying to cheer him up. She was only met by Izuku's silent crying because he'd never be able to become a hero that saves everyone with a smile. "Would you like to go to that one American comic book store you like? It's your birthday, so you can have as many as you want," said Inko. She looked at the rearview mirror and only saw him slowly nod while wiping some tears away. Inko smiled and nodded her head and started to head to the bookstore. After a short drive they arrived there and they both went inside the store. "Okay, sweetie, look for any books you want, okay?" said Inko. "Oh, okay," said Izuku as he started to walk around the bookstore and look around. He continued to walk and look at the books, and none of them really catching his interest. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a comic book with a man wearing a metal suit that was yellow and red. He didn't know why, but he started to walk towards it and grabbed it to see what it was. Izuku couldn't understand some of the words, but amazed by this guy flying around with this suit. "Wow. I wonder what kind of quirk he has," said Izuku as he kept reading. "Oh, Iron Man. He doesn't have a quirk. That's pre-quirk era books." "Not very popular, sadly," said an old man with graying hair and a mustache. He was also wearing some sunglasses. "Iron Man. And he doesn't have a quirk," said Izuku, looking at the man. "Haha, no, but he doesn't let that stop him. He's extremely smart and built all those suits," said the old man. "Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Stanley, what's yours?" "Izuku Midoriya, so he's really quirkless," said Izuku, and without knowing it a smile started to creep up on his face as his eyes were filled with hope again. Back before quirks there were lots of stories about heroes without any superpowers. They just used their minds or better tactics and stuff like that. Let's see, there's Batman and all his sidekicks, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Ant-Man and lots of others, said Stanley. "Wow, Mr. Can I buy this?" asked Izuku shyly. Sure you can," said Stan Lee, smiling happily. "Oh, Izuku, did you find a book you wanted?" asked Inko, walking up to him. "Yeah, Mom, and I think I know what I'm gonna do now," said Izuku, feeling determination and hope again. "Oh, and what's that, sweetie?" said Inko curiously. Izuku then showed her the comic book and had a massive smile. "I'm gonna become the real-life Iron Man." Both Inko and Stan looked at him a little shocked, but they didn't know why, but they couldn't help but believe that he actually will. "Well, Midoriya, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to be extremely smart, but I know if you truly put your heart to it, then you can," said Stan Lee. Izuku looked up at him and nodded happily. "Well, I guess I know what to buy you for your birthday then," said Inko, hoping that this will make Izuku happy again. "Well then, I guess since it's his birthday, you can consider what I'm going to give you as a present," said Stan as he walked into the back of the store. A couple minutes later he came back with a massive box filled with Iron Man comic books and some others from that era. "Consider this my gift to our future real-life Iron Man." "Oh, Mr. Lee, we can't take that. I'm more than willing to pay for them," said Inko. It's no problem, they were just sitting in the back collecting dust anyways," said Stan. "Happy birthday, Midoriya, and remember, no matter how hard things get, to always get back up." "Thank you, Mr. Lee, and I will," said Izuku as he gave him a quick bow. It's no problem at all, and you're always welcome here if you ever want to talk about those books. I still remember each one of them," said Stan. "I'll be sure to stop by sometime soon, Mr. Lee," said Izuku. 11 years later, Izuku was sitting in his class reading a book on physics, trying to find a way to make his dream project a reality and change the world. As he continued to read, he ignored all his classmates that were loudly talking and cheering about something that he could care less about. As he continued to read, he noticed the class suddenly get very quiet before it bursted into laughter. He decided to ignore it, thinking that it was probably just them laughing at him. Izuku was knocked out of his thoughts when a hand slammed into his desk with an explosion. He could only sigh and look up from his book at the angry red eyes of Bakugo. "What do you want, Bakugo?" said Izuku, wanting to get back to his book. "The teacher said you're going to UA, you worthless space of human life, Deku," said Katsuki. "Support department, now leave me alone. I don't have time to deal with your over-inflated ego that you use to compensate for something else," said Izuku. The entire class was dead silent because this was the first time Izuku ever talked back to Bakugo. But that he also roasted him so hard they weren't sure if the famous recovery girl could heal that. "What the F did you say to me, you worthless piece of quirkless filth?" screamed Katsuki. "Bakugo, that's enough. I don't want you to ruin your record because Midoriya is being a troublemaker," said the teacher. "Also, Midoriya, I told you not to read those books in my class. I'm a straight-A student and it's been proven multiple times that I'm smarter than everyone in this school," said Izuku. "That's IT principal's office right now," screamed the teacher, mad that he got insulted by someone who's quirkless. Izuku sighed and grabbed his things and left, heading for the principal's office. After a short walk he arrived at the principal's office and knocked on the door. "Come in," said the principal. Izuku walked in and the principal was glaring at him. "So I heard that you were insulting Bakugo and trying to start a fight." "That's funny cause it was the other way around," said Izuku. "Don't backtalk me, Midoriya. We can easily make sure you never go to UA, which I should do so Bakugo doesn't end up with a bad reputation for going to school with a quirkless kid," said the principal. "And I can easily ruin yours and this entire school at the click of the button," said Izuku, letting a smirk cross his face. "What are you talking about?" said the principal in anger. Izuku pulled out his phone and after a couple seconds of searching, he pulled up a video from the school security cameras of his getting beaten up. And to make matters worse for the principal, it showed him and a couple of teachers watching and laughing. "So, in other words, your lives are in my hands and I have recorded footage of every beaten from my first day here till now," said Izuku. "And now, Midoriya, we see can't talk about this," said the principal. "Have a nice day, principal," said Izuku as he left his office to head home. Izuku was walking down the road on his way home when he passed through a tunnel and heard some weird noise behind him. "Oh, look, a medium-sized skin suit," said the living sludge. "Wow, I didn't know boogers can walk and talk," said Izuku, pissing off the sludge villain. "You're dead," yelled the villain as he tried to attack Izuku. Izuku rolled out of the way, relying on his self-defense class training to help him. As he quickly stood up, he pulled out a gadget from his pocket and activated it, and it created sound waves that hit the villain. "Oh!" screamed the sludge villain in pain from the sonic waves hitting him. "Don't worry. Everything is fine. Why? Because I am here," yelled All Might, bursting from the sewer. All Might saw the villain being held in place from sound waves being produced from some object the green-haired teen was holding. He quickly charged at the villain to take him down. "Detroit Smash!" yelled All Might, causing the villain to explode from the punch. "Sorry about that, I got lost in the sewer systems." "It's alright, I wasn't in any real danger," said Izuku before he pulled out a notebook. "Could you please sign this?" Of course. And if you'd like I can take a picture as apology," said All Might, which got a nod from Izuku. After that he quickly started to pick up the villain and was surprised when Izuku started to help him do it. "I'm quirkless," said Izuku with the subtlety of a bull charging through a china shop. "But I want to be a hero and I won't let anything stop me. I know I can't be the #1 like you, but I'd like to be one that helps people." All Might looked over at Izuku and smiled. "I'll be honest, young man, being a hero is a very dangerous job and I would have told you don't. But after hearing you speak, I'm sure you'll be a great hero. And I look forward to possibly working with you in the future." "Thank you, All Might," said Izuku before he noticed All Might finished putting the sludge villain in the bottle. "Here, let me tape that up to help secure it in case something happens." All Might smiled and let him tape it up before he gave a quick wave and shot off into the sky to drop the villain off. "Mom, I'm home," said Izuku, entering his home. "Oh, Izuku, welcome back," said Inko before she looked over and saw the robot Izuku made to help clean the house. "That robot you made has seriously helped me with everything, especially since your dad just disappeared." He went to get very special milk, said Izuku, making Inko snort. I agree and thank you, Igo, said Inko, looking at the cleaning robot Izuku made for her birthday 5 years ago. The robot nodded and turned to Izuku. Welcome back, Izuku, was your day adequate? Asked Igo, grabbing Izuku's backpack. The robot nodded and turned to Izuku. Welcome back, Izuku, was your day adequate? Asked Igo, grabbing Izuku's backpack. Yes, it was, Igo, thank you for asking, said Izuku before he went to his room and sat down on his bed. Jarvis, any progress? Welcome back, sir, and the new designs you asked me to run simulations over have a 97% successful chance, said Jarvis. I see. Well, I want to at least get 99%, so let's see what we can do to get the arc reactor design to that level, said Izuku before he got on his computer. 10 months later, Nizu looked around the observation room. Teachers slowly filled it, sitting comfortably in padded armchairs. Midnight and Present Mike were chatting rather loudly as usual and ignoring everyone else. Snipe, Vlad King, and Cementos engaged in a small conversation, with the first two taking sips from a flask, with 13 and Ectoplasm joining in from time to time. All Might in his small form observed the screens, watching candidates preparing to practical part of the hero course exam. He could bet his money and tea supplies that he was already looking for a potential successor. Eraserhead stood in the corner, his back against the wall and eyes closed. He seemed to be asleep. Well, when time comes, Nizu knew that Aizawa would be very meticulous in watching kids struggle, and last but not least, Powerloader, did something happen? Nizu couldn't help but ask. Ever since the support course exam last week, Powerloader was Nizu had hard time placing his paw on it. Powerloader was going from being excited to complete depression-type state and downwards Aizawa's dead inside state. He even caught him stealing some of Vlad's and Aizawa's vodka stash. Oh, it's just I got myself 2 new students, with one of them I'm beyond excited to have in class and the other I'm dreading, said Powerloader. She's gonna be the death of me. Nizu couldn't help but be slightly intrigued on this cause he's never seen him this excited before. Oh, and what's so special about them? One of them is safe to say causes havoc everywhere she goes but makes up for it with her inventions, but the other one, my God, some of the things I heard him say, I haven't heard since college, and his brain. He had me running in circles for some of the things he was telling me. Not only that, but I did the usual challenge for entrance exams and most passed, but the 2 I mentioned went beyond what I asked. The girl, her name was 𝗵𝗃𝗁, caused a couple explosions but was able to make all the gadgets I asked, with some doing way more than I needed. But the boy 𝗕𝗁𝙢𝗪, he asked to work on the robots for hero course entrance exam, and in 3 hours he reprogrammed every single one of them, making it harder for the students and also added something special to the 0-pointer, said Powerloader. You're gonna like him, principal. And if they meet and get along, they will push each other to new heights, which will either be good or our utter demise. Nizu couldn't help but grin at that as his tail twitched very slightly in excitement and was planning once these 2 students enter on dropping by. All the staff watched in amazement as they saw all the robots were doing much more advanced movements with some dodging or backing off. Whoa, why do the robots seem so much smarter? Asked Present Mike. That's 'cause you're looking at the work of one of our new students to be. In just 3 hours he reprogrammed all of the robots so that they are more difficult. They will use swarm tactics, and if the student is too tough for them, they will back off and request help from other robots. Not only that, but they all share data on the students, so if one student is very dangerous, all the robots know to either run or send only 3 pointers, said Powerloader. All the teachers looked at him in complete shock that one student was able to do this in 3 hours. Ha ha, oh, I can't wait to meet the student. Maybe I finally found someone worthy to pass on my teachings, said Nizu, cackling. The staff felt a shiver down their spines but brushed it aside for now. As they continued to watch, they noticed the robots seemed to pick one student out in particular to avoid and only attack at a distance. He was a blonde-haired kid with red eyes and created explosions from his hands. The robots would completely avoid him and only attack when his guard was down. Some of them felt bad when they saw over 20 RBB bullets him in the pages. After that, they immediately backed off and avoided him, making harder for him to get points since he still only had 15 and the test is almost over. They continued to watch for a few more minutes before it was time to release the 0-pointer. I love this part of my job, said Nizu as he pushed the big red button. In all of the training cities, massive robots rose that were around the same size of the buildings. They started rolling out and causing havoc. The staff noticed on one screen a brown-haired girl was stuck under some rubble and couldn't move, and the zero-pointer was about to crush her. We have to save her, yelled Midnight, standing up. Don't worry, she'll be fine, said 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 dismissively. What do you mean? You know the zero-pointer's safety systems don't always work, said Present Mike. She'll be fine, just watch, said 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧. The staff watched in extreme anxiety as the robot got closer and closer before it suddenly stopped and looked down at the trapped girl. It stood there for a moment before it lowered its hand and scooped her up and put her to the side so it wouldn't run her over. After that, it continued to roll through the city, causing destruction and chaos. Everyone in the observation room was completely slack-jawed at this and didn't know how to respond. You're looking at the work of my soon-to-be student. He fixed and reprogrammed the zero-pointers so when they come up to someone that can't move, they will either go around or help move the student, said 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 with a SHT-eating grin. Ha, I'm accepting this kid in person, yelled Nizu while laughing and spilling tea everywhere. 3 days later, it was a quiet day at the Midoriya household except for the sounds of Izuku working on something and him blasting some music from a band called AC/DC, which Izuku took an immediate liking towards. Inko was in the kitchen cleaning dishes when she heard the door be knocked on. Igo, could you open that please? Said Inko, looking over at the robot that was cleaning the living room. At once, Inko, said Igo as it walked towards the door and pushed a button, unlocking it and the door opening. Hello, my name is Igo, in the service of Mr. Izuku and Inko Midoriya. How can I help you? Nizu saw the robot and couldn't stop the grin from forming on his face. Hello, I am Principal Nizu from UA High and I'd like to speak with Miss Midoriya. Very well, give me one moment, said Igo as it closed the door and left. A couple minutes later, and the door opened to a skinny green-haired woman. Oh, hello, how can I help you? Asked Inko, looking at the principal in shock that he would come to her house. Oh, forgive me, Miss Midoriya, but I was just so excited after seeing what your son did at the exam that I just had to meet him in person, said Nizu. Oh, I see, well, please come inside, said Inko as she opened the door and escorted Nizu to the couch. I'll be back in a minute, I need to get Izuku. Nizu nodded and hopped up on the couch and made himself comfortable. Would you like some refreshments? Said Igo, walking up to the principal. Oh, just some green tea if you have any, said Nizu, which Igo nodded and walked off to the kitchen. What do you mean the principal of UA is here to see me? Asked Izuku, following his mom, and was covered in soot and oil. He looked over and was shocked that his mom was indeed telling the truth and the principal was indeed in his house. Why, hello, young Midoriya, it's a pleasure to meet you, said Nizu, waving at him. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you as well, said Izuku, nervous. No need to be nervous, I simply came to congratulate one of our most promising support department students, said Nizu. I was accepted, said Izuku as a grin formed on his face. Indeed, and forgive me, but after I saw what you did with the robots, I was just too excited and had to meet you sooner, said Nizu, smiling. Here you are, sir, said Igo, walking up to Nizu and handing him his tea. Why, thank you, Igo, said Nizu. I must say seeing robots is very rare unless it's at a hero or tech school, let alone one this intelligent. Yeah, I made Igo to help my mom around the house since my dad left to get cigarettes when I was 4, said Izuku. Such a shame, you truly are a very smart kid, said Nizu. Yeah, true, but Igo was only my first one. You should meet Jarvis, said Izuku as a smile crept on his face. Oh, then I'd very much like to meet him, said Nizu. Izuku smiled and pulled out an earpiece from his ear and put down on the table. Hello, Principal Nizu of UA High, I am Jarvis, artificial intelligence and sadly under the care of Izuku Midoriya, said Jarvis with sarcasm. Ah, Jarvis, said Izuku, slightly regretting that he allowed him to develop his own personality. Forgive me, but it is quite fun messing with you, sir, said Jarvis. So, you created him? Asked Nizu, referring to Jarvis. Yes, I did, and if you'd like you can come with me to my room workshop, said Izuku as he picked up his earpiece and went towards his room. Nizu quickly followed, having been beyond intrigued since this is the first true AI the world has ever seen and it was built by a 15-year-old. He followed Izuku into his room and was quite impressed. He saw all the usual tech and gear and tools that would be used by a gearhead, but Izuku seemed to be very advanced in this. "This right here is one of my other inventions," said Izuku, walking over to a table with what looked like multiple PCs rigged together under it. He tapped the glass onto the table and holographic screen popped up and was floating in the air. "The world's first holodeable, and I can do so many things with it." Nizu was beyond shocked and could already see 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪 bouncing in happiness with him being a student. "But Principal Nizu, I'd like to make a business deal with you since I'm planning to have a company one day," said Izuku. "Oh, and what type of business deal would that be?" said Nizu, feeling very excited. Izuku smirked and touched the holodeable, and a couple seconds later a massive diagram popped up. "Say hello to the arc reactor if I can make this. It will be the world's first true clean energy and it's cold fusion. And I'm offering a business deal that I build this and it runs your school, and I have Jarvis hooked to the school to help you and the staff, as well as a bunch of robots to help the staff with work. In return you pay me for the electricity I will provide, and I get my very own lab where I can do what I want and that I'm only required to go to classes I need," said Izuku. "But all my products and everything I build is only accessible to me and you can't sell it to anyone else." Nizu couldn't stop the massive grin from forming and raised his paw to Izuku. "I look forward to working with you, Midoriya." "And I look forward to working with you, Principal Nizu," said Izuku as he shook his paw. 1 week later, Class 1 have a special announcement, said the teacher looking at her class. "We have 2 students who were accepted to UA." The class looked at the teacher in shock that not only 1 person but 2 were accepted into UA. And those 2 students are Katsuki Bakugo, who got into the hero course, and Izuku Midoriya, who was accepted into the support department, said the teacher. Katsuki had a massive smirk before he heard that Deku got in, and it pissed him off. He was supposed to be the only one to go to UA. Soon the day came to an end and everyone was getting ready to leave when Katsuki walked up to Izuku with a glare. "I thought I told you not to go to UA? You just being there will ruin my image, you quirkless piece of SHT, said Katsuki. "You're not in charge of my life, Bakugo, so it doesn't really matter. Besides, I'm in the support department, so why do you care?" said Izuku. "That's not the point, I'm supposed to be the only one," said Katsuki. "Whatever, Bakugo, I need to get going," said Izuku, walking away. Before he could, Katsuki grabbed him and gave him an explosive punch to his chest that sent him tumbling through a couple desks. Izuku grabbed his chest in pain and felt a bunch of burned skin and BLD. "Do yourself and your worthless mother a favor and kill yourself so the human race doesn't have to someone so defective in it anymore," said Katsuki as he walked away. After Katsuki left, Izuku reached into his backpack and grabbed some special healing gel he made and put it on his chest and hissed as it started healing. "Oh, don't worry, Bakugo, I'm not gonna ruin your chance in UA. I'm gonna let you get and then tear apart your dream before your very eyes," said Izuku. "I have a protege," screamed Nizu suddenly. The staff looked at him with concern and worry. "Haha, oh, I can't wait for him to come here so I can teach him the ways of messing with people," said Nizu while cackling. "We're so thought all the staff of UA." Izuku was sitting in his new class listening to 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪 explain what the class will be doing and rules. Soon after he finished, he turned towards him. "Oh yeah, Midoriya, Nizu said your room won't be done till next week, so you'll be here till then, right?" "Thank you, 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪-sensei," said Izuku before he looked at the blueprints of the project they will be working on. After an hour or two, Izuku continued to work on the project the school required him to do when he noticed that his welder was missing. He looked around and saw that it was taken by some girl with pink dreadlocks. May was humming to herself as she continued to work on her baby and was getting ready to start up her hover boots when someone tapped her shoulder. "You took my welder," said Izuku with a slight annoyed look on his face. "It was over here, so I needed it for my baby," said May, waving it off, not truly caring, since she had more important things to do, like make more babies. "Well, can I have my welder back, 'cause I need it to finish my project?" said Izuku as he reached his hand down to grab it and take it regardless. May grabbed the welder and handed him it before she went back to connecting the power supply and was about to start it when Izuku interrupted her again. "Did you dry run it and test it?" said Izuku, looking at what May was making and saw that it'd fail since the wires were messed up. "It's in my head so it'll work," said May, trying to ignore him and get back to work. "Did you check if wires and adapters are working fine? Or that the capacitors are working correctly?" said Izuku. "I built it so it will work," said May, slightly annoyed. "Your wires are messed up, the green ones have been connected to the red one and not properly secured," said Izuku, pointing at said wires. "What? Of course I did it right, what are you?" said May before she looked at her hover boots and saw that he was right. "This would have caused a fire or explosion and overloaded the power capacitor," said Izuku before he set his welder down. "Here, let me help you so it doesn't explode." May was silent and simply nodded her head before she decided to introduce herself. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗲 Izuku Midoriya. After a couple minutes, Izuku helped her fix the wires and capacitor along with the fans for the hover boots. He even gave her some tips to get more power out of the small generator in the boots without causing them to short-circuiting. "There, you should be good now, just don't try and overlook everything in your excitement," said Izuku before he left for his table and project. May watched him leave before she went back to her project and worked a little slower now since he did point things out that would have caused her problems. Elsewhere in the school, Katsuki was seething in rage because he got 6th place in the UA entrance exam because of those robots. But he was even angrier cause he got 3rd in this test and wasn't top dog like he wanted to be. He got even angrier when he found out the helpers of the school were little robots that looked like the ones Deku made. "Jarvis, I think they did fine enough to pass, what do you think?" said Aizawa as towards a little camera on his shirt. "I think they did adequate, but Bakugo should have eye kept on him," said Jarvis. "What the F does that mean, you worthless bucket of bolts?" said Katsuki, angry at the robot. "From what I've witnessed, you have anger issues along with superiority and inferiority complex that conflict each other. So I suggest you have eye kept on you, or have you sent to Hound Dog for therapy sessions," said Jarvis. "I'll kill you," screamed Katsuki as he grinded his teeth and had a couple veins popping out from his forehead. "I hope everyone got their rabies shot because it seems the Pomeranian is getting angry," said Jarvis, making the class laugh. Even Aizawa couldn't stop his lips twitching upwards. "You mother F," said Katsuki as explosions started to appear in his hands and wanted to destroy this robot. "I believe that's your father's job, but I could ask my creator to go and F your mother if you wish," said Jarvis, enjoying getting revenge for his creator. Katsuki was about to attack the teacher to get that camera when he was stopped from a glare from Aizawa. "That's enough, Bakugo, and I will be informing Nizu on your anger issues if they become a reoccurring theme," said Aizawa. He sucked in his teeth and was trying to figure out who could have made this DMN robot and how to beat the BSTRD who built it without getting caught. The lunch bell rung and everyone was leaving for the lunchroom. Izuku was about to leave when he saw May was still at her table working. "Hatsum, you should get some food," said Izuku. "I'm fine," said May, oblivious to her stomach growling since she hasn't eaten in 4 days. She was getting ready to hook the power SWCH for her hover boots when she was suddenly getting dragged away. "Come on, you need food. Besides, it'll help you focus if you have some food in your stomach," said Izuku as he continued to drag her. After a couple minutes they arrived at the cafeteria and Izuku sat her down at a table. "Stay here, I'll be back with some food." May was silent for a couple seconds before she realized this was her chance to escape, her chance to get back to work on her babies. She was about to stand up when Izuku came back with 2 trays of food. "Here, eat, you'll need your strength or you'll crash and burn." May was angry at herself because she wasn't fast enough to get away and sighed while deciding to at least eat. She reached down with her chopsticks and took out a big chunk of rice and began eating. "Wow, this is really good," said May happily as she began shoveling more in. "Well, it is made by Lunch Rush, so it's bound to be good," said Izuku as he ate some pork. Man, I hope we get to have more fun making babies that we want to design," said May angrily. "I'm sure we'll get to soon, so don't worry, Hatsum," said Izuku. So why did you join the support course? Asked May curiously. So I can get a license to own a company and make gear, said Izuku. Besides, I'm gonna be a hero afterwards. Well, what are you gonna make and why become a hero? Submit. I'm gonna make something that can even the playing fields with quirks and to show the world anyone can be a hero, said Izuku. Izuku, how are you doing today? Said a robot walking up to him. I'm doing good, but can I get another glass of water? Of course, sir, I'll be right back. The robot walked away to get him some water, and Izuku looked at May, who was looking at him in shock. You made that? Submit. Yes, I did, and I also made Jarvis, said Izuku as he took off his watch and a small hologram popped up. Hello, I am Jarvis, artificial intelligence, and I was made by Izuku Midoriya to help him with his work, said Jarvis. Wow, you're an actual AI, that's amazing, said May, vibrating in excitement. You must have an amazing quirk to make him. Actually, I'm quirkless, said Izuku bluntly. Izuku was met by silence and looked up and saw her face of shock before a massive smile formed on her face. That's awesome, said May as she appeared in front of him with stars in her eyes. Yeah, said Izuku, not used to this. That's awesome, what else have you made? Said May, getting even closer and not noticing she's almost on top of Izuku. Izuku forced down his blush since May was extremely attractive and her assets were being pushed on his arm. A couple things, like a hollow table, a small rocket system that can fit in your backpack and is very light. Let's see, I'm working on a couple other things that are still not ready yet, said Izuku. Still, that's amazing. Hey, maybe we can work together and make awesome babies together. Submit. Izuku blushed at this before he realized that she was referring to her inventions. Sure, I don't see anything wrong with that. Both of them shook hands and smiled, not realizing this was the beginning of a friendship and they will both change the whole world. Especially Izuku with his soon-to-be inventions. May, no. May, yes. May, we can attach the power adapter to this. Do you realize this will destroy the entire machine? Come on, muscles, it'll work, said May, trying to connect a 220V cable to a 110V socket. Izuku grabbed May and slowly dragged her away from the invention she was working on. Oh, come on, it would have worked, said May, pouting. May, I can give about 100 reasons why it would not work, said Izuku. You're no fun, said May, pouting. In the past week, Izuku was tasked with keeping an eye on May by request of the teacher and rest of the class. Izuku sighed and went back to his blueprints he was finishing up for his soon-to-be arc reactor. He already asked his teacher and Nizu for the palladium, and Nizu said he'd make sure it's on time. He didn't want to know what Nizu did to ensure it will arrive on time. What you working on? Asked May as she leaned on his back and looked over his shoulder. Izuku froze when he felt May's asses on his back and had to force down a blush. Those could suffocate someone worth it. Just some blueprints I'm making for a project that I thought up back when I was 7, said Izuku. May looked over them and was behind, shocked at what he was gonna attempt to build, and she started to breathe seeing it. This is ACC cold fusion reactor, said May with stars forming in her eyes and drool leaking from her mouth. It's just a concept, and yet you're gonna try and build one. Yeah, but I'm sure you could understand if I want to keep it to myself. For now it's my life's work and I want to be able to build it, said Izuku. May smiled and nodded her head. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I'd want to do the same if I was in your shoes. Thank you, May, I really appreciate it, said Izuku, but don't worry, when I start it I'll be sure you're there to witness it. Hello, Midoriya, chirped Nizu, jumping out of his backpack. Principal Nizu, how did you get in there? Asked Izuku. Don't worry about it, but I have a present for you, said Nizu, pulling out a small box. In here is a whole PND of palladium, so you'll have more than enough for a long time. Not only that, but your new lab is built to your specifications and all your gear was moved into it that you needed. Thank you, Principal Nizu, I really appreciate it, said Izuku. No problem, I can't wait to see your great inventions. Anyways, I need to leave and try and stop Izawa from drinking a gallon of vodka. After that he just dived back into the backpack. Izuku and May looked at each other before they both looked into his backpack and only saw school supplies. What? How did he do that, said May. You're better off not questioning it, said Power Loader, handing Izuku a wristband. This is for you so you can enter your room, and he also said you have to attend history and English. All other classes you're exempt from, but you will have to come to mine at least once a week. Izuku smiled and nodded his head as he reached over and grabbed his stuff and was packing up. Can I join ya? Asked May, appearing before him. Please, yelled the whole class, hoping that they wouldn't have to deal with May's explosions anymore. You're allowed 2 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗲, said Nizu over the intercom. Nizu, give me back my vodka, you 𝗕𝗵𝗲, yelled Izuku before the intercom turned off. Everyone heard a sudden scream and saw Izuku's head embedded in a tree with the rest of his body sticking out and his leg twitching. Note to self: don't call Nizu a rat, said one of the students before a pit opened under him and he fell with the door closing. You, said Izuku, looking concerned. Sigh, I'll be back, I need to go and save the student before Nizu decides to have fun, said 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪, leaving class. Alright, let's go check out our new lab, said Izuku as him and May left and went towards the lab. When they arrived at large set of double doors, Izuku scanned his bracelet and walked in and was greeted by Jarvis. Hello sir, I've had the lab designed to your specifications and what you requested and also gotten everything installed, said Jarvis. Izuku smiled and looked around the massive room, which was twice the size of a normal classroom. Multiple toolboxes that had all the tools they would need. A massive laser to cut metal and other materials with a very high temperature resistance. A massive holodeck that also had projectors around the room to project it anywhere else if needed. The last couple things were welding gear, a massive work table, and everything else they'd need. Holy 𝗧𝗍, this is for all of you, yelled May, vibrating in excitement. Indeed it is, but please keep explosions to a minimum, said Izuku, watching her run off and look at the holodeck. You built this? This is amazing, I've never seen anything like it before, said May, testing it out. Yes, I did. It was a pain, but I made it work, said Izuku, smiling. Mr. Izuku, it's a pleasure to see you again, said a giant robot Izuku built last year. It's good to see you here, Ogre. Did you bring all the materials I requested? Said Izuku. Indeed, sir, said Ogre, pointing at them. May looked over at the robot and saw that it was about 3 feet taller than Izuku and had a massive stocky build meant for heavy loads. It had a small head with a single camera lens to act as the eye and had massive 3-fingered hands to pick things up. Cool robot, said May, looking at Ogre. Thanks, I had to build him to help move bit heavy things since I wasn't strong enough, and he's been a huge help, said Izuku. Just then they heard the lunch bell ring. Come on May, let's go and get some food instead of eating in class, said Izuku. Izuku and May were sitting at an empty table and were munching on lunch while May was talking about ideas for jetpacks. Deku, I've told you not to come to this school, said a very annoying voice. Oh hello Bakugo, I didn't know they let rabid dogs into buildings nowadays. Good thing I got my shots, said Izuku, not wanting to deal with him. You 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪, said Katsuki, seething. If I'm a 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪, then what does that make you to your parents? Said Izuku, enraging him even more. Katsuki grabbed Izuku by the collar. You better shut the F up, you quirkless Deku, before I beat some sense into you. Everyone in the cafeteria looked at them in shock and started whispering. Oh, I'm sorry about that, it's just I'm so agitated about this blonde little ht that walked over here and bothered me. And is currently trying to impress me and everyone like his alcoholic father, said Izuku. Katsuki swung his fist at Izuku, but he caught it and had his sound gun on pointed at his chin. Be a sport and grab daddy. Another beer, son, said Izuku, smirking. Whoa guys, calm down, said Kirishima, walking over to Bakugo, and the kid Katsuki just went and tried to attack. Oh, don't worry, I'm calm, it's just I think your dog needs to be retrained or he's currently on his PRD, said Izuku. Kirishima bit his lip, trying not to laugh at that one. What's wrong Bakugo, where's your anger and insults, or did your ego get so big that you can't even think anymore? Said Izuku. Katsuki was seething in rage and was about to use his quirk when the alarm went off and everyone started to panic. Izuku quickly shoved him away and went to May to make sure she was okay, which luckily she was. Nizu was currently sitting in his office thinking over how someone was able to attack his school. It didn't make any sense because of all the safety precautions they have. He was interrupted when someone knocked on his door. Come in, he looked up and smiled, seeing that it was Izuku. Hello, Principal Nizu, I came here to offer you my assistance with the attack earlier, said Izuku. Oh, and what would that be? Asked Nizu, smiling while giving Izuku a cup of tea which he took. Izuku drank his tea before continuing. For starters, put all information on students, teachers, school schedules, and other important documents on the school server. To protect them even further, I'll create special server for them that's going to be completely separated from school network and only accessible through Jarvis. He's too advanced to be hacked by someone who doesn't know how he operates. And will inform both of us if anyone even attempted to, and by the time we'd be able to track them. Not only that, but I did program Jarvis to be unhackable with multiple layers of firewalls and my own secret that changes the code so much that no one can ever find a pattern to hack him. Izuku saw Nizu nod before he continued. Next step is to increase the number of cameras, especially ones looking at the gates. In school there's still some blind spots that could be covered. Jarvis already marked them on the building plan and delivered them to you for you to check. Lastly, we'll need to build something that will be able to help us detect the warp quirk. As it was documented thanks to 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗏, all warp quirks leave the trace of their radiation behind whenever the portal is opened. Thanks to that, I can build a device that would be able to track the radiation and alarm us before another portal fully opens. Of course, we would need to get a good read on it to ensure it works as desired, but it's doable. He said, taking another sip of his tea, and couldn't help but smile at the fact he didn't stutter or mess up. Nizu couldn't stop the massive grin from forming on his face that showed his canines while laughing. So tell me, Midoriya, how did you know what happened? Said Nizu, leaning in with a gleeful grin on his face. Well, Jarvis is my AI and he is connected to your school system, so I'm more or less aware of everything that happens here. Not only that, but through Jarvis he was able to detect a small amount of radiation outside the school premises, which I was able to assume being a warp quirk since none of the heroes were able to find any trace of them after that. So it was a warp quirk, said Izuku, looking at Nizu. Nizu chuckled before it turned into full-out laughter with him slamming his fist on the table. Truly amazing, Midoriya, and I shall take note of your ideas, and don't worry, you're not in trouble for going through school stuff. As long as you're not cheating, said Nizu. Izuku was finishing up the tracking device he promised Nizu he'd build to track down that warping villain. Both sadly and thankfully, because of the USJ incident last week, he was able to get enough data to make it work. Sadly, the device only had a range of 1 mile as of right now, but hopefully with soon-to-be new models they will have better range. Hey Izuku, what are you doing today? Asked May, walking up to him. Well, I'm gonna be finishing up on my project today, and if it works the whole world will forever be changed, said Izuku, smiling. May looked at him and smiled one of her true smiles. Well, I believe in ya. Thank you, May, said Izuku as he stood up. Well, I'll be heading down to work on it and I'll call you down when I'm ready to start it. After Izuku left, May walked back over to her table and started to work on some gear, but for some reason she wishes Izuku was still here. She didn't know why, but she really liked having him here with her as they both worked. She stood up from her baby she was working on and just stared at it, trying to figure out why she missed him being here. She's never felt like this before, and it was weird for her to describe. It was the same warm feeling she gets from making stuff. But it was stronger and it made her even happier. Miss 𝗵𝗃𝗃, are you all right? Asked Jarvis, seeing she seemed troubled. I'm fine, Jarvis, just thinking is all, said May. If you need, I'm more than willing to help since you seemed distracted and distressed. I'm not sure, I just miss Izuku being here. Not only that, but whenever I'm around him I get a weird warm feeling in my chest that I can't really explain, said May. Jarvis was silent for a moment before he spoke. Do you have longing feeling every time he leaves and you wish he was with you? Yes. Do you enjoy spending time with him over other people? Yes. Well, 𝗵𝗃𝗃, I have good news for you. You have feelings for Izuku, said Jarvis. May looked at the AI hologram with a questioning look for a little bit, but felt a little bit of warmth in her cheeks. I like him, said May, feeling more blood rush to her cheeks. A couple hours later, Izuku finished the final things he had to do for his arc reactor, and it was now ready to be turned on. Jarvis, contact Nizu and May and 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 as well as anyone else that will want to see this, said Izuku, smiling. At once, sir, calling the rat and your future girlfriend along with all the less intelligent people, said Jarvis. Izuku glared at the AI before his eyes bulged. "I isn't my girlfriend," he yelled while blushing. "Yet. I will deactivate you off, Jarvis," said Izuku, glaring at the AI. Jarvis simply chuckled while making Izuku want to delete him. After a couple of minutes, Nizu, May, a good portion of 1A that Izuku met and had a business relationship with, and most of UA's staff appeared. This was it. It was one of the most important moments of his life. The state of his mind and dream depended on whatever his and the scientists before him theory behind how arc reactor function was correct or not. He was never so nervous, his entire life, all his hard work and years of studying all on the line along with sleepless nights. It's time to change the world for the better. Having an audience in the form of May, the principal, Aizawa, power loader, and a chunk of 1A both helped and didn't. It all but put more stress and pressure on him, hoping his work would work. Izuku gulped while looking through the reinforced window of the control room at the testing room. It was decently big, but the only thing stationed there was his arc reactor, which took up a huge chunk of the room, being 2 stories tall, which would supply electricity to jumpstart the whole thing, and 1 supercapacitor to gather energy produced by the device. He took a deep breath. It was showtime. Everything was ready for him to begin. "Jarvis, are we ready to begin?" Izuku asked, hovering his hands over the keyboard shakily while breathing heavy. To try and calm his nerves. "Yes, sir. We're good to go," came Jarvis' voice through the room's speakers, sounding happy. He heard whispers behind him but ignored them. This was more important at the moment. This will change the world for the better, or it would crash and burn before it got started. He typed the start command, and soon on the screen, he saw the visualization of the process. He observed the electricity flowing from the transformer to the reactor, but nothing happened with the device. He grabbed a dial and turned it slowly, monitoring the increase in voltage, accidentally causing the lights in the testing room to flicker on and off. This caused him to sweat a little, thinking it might not work. Then doubts began to race through his mind as he wondered if maybe he messed something up or put the wrong code in, or even worse, messed up somewhere when he built this. Then a soft whine could be heard. His eyes went from the screens to the reactor, and his breathing stopped. The giant reactor started to glow blue and hum as a flow of electricity started to course through it, lighting up the room even more. He couldn't believe his eyes, holding his breath for a few seconds longer to confirm his mind is not playing tricks. He could barely believe it. "Jarvis, my eyes are occupied with the reactor. Please tell me the numbers and parameters," he said, sounding both nervous and beyond excited since it looked to be working. "Congratulations, sir. The arc reactor shows above optimal readings. The device is fully functional and shall help you change the world," Jarvis happily replied. Izuku clasped a hand over his mouth and took a step back, shaking slightly. His legs felt like jelly, and soon he'd fallen on his back. He saw the concerned face of May hovering over him and asking him something, but he didn't react. His brain was busy with processing what just happened. It worked. All his hard work finally paid off. He couldn't stop smiling at this. "It works," he whispered. It didn't feel real. A chuckle escaped his mouth. "It works." The chuckle turned into full-blown laughter. He conquered another mountain and was a step closer toward his dream of becoming the person to forever change the world and then become a hero. With the help of his friends, he stood up and glanced at the screens. All parameters were in the green zone and showed that everything was working properly, and the energy output was about the level he calculated so many times over and over again from sleepless nights. His dream is finally a reality. He heard clapping and someone whistling behind him and someone yell manly in the back, and he turned towards his audience. They were clapping and cheering at him. He allowed himself to bask in the praise. He deserved it. Over 8 years of studying, brainstorming, and theorizing, mixed up with many sleepless nights, were poured into this exact moment. "So how does it work?" came the question from Kirishima. "Yes, I'd also like to know how it functions, Midoriya. You only told me what it would do," the principal stated with a grin forming on his face. He saw everyone looking at him expectantly. May was even bouncing with excitement next to Yaoyorozu, who had a hard time not joining her. Well, it was time for nerd talk, as Stan called it. Cold fusion releases measurable energy from fusion reactions at or near room temperature when deuterium is dissolved in a solid, usually palladium metal. The idea: which has its roots in research going back to the 1920s, is that hydrogen and its isotopes can dissolve to such high concentrations in certain solids that the hydrogen nuclei approach closer to one another than even in solid hydrogen. Furthermore, negative electrical charges from the electrons of the solid host partly cancel the repulsion between the nuclei. Early experiments did not detect any signs of fusion, however. Furthermore, modern theoretical calculations show that the proposed effects, while real, are much too small to produce detectable rates of fusion. Most of Class 1A was looking at him in complete shock during his explanation, and the staff wasn't that far as well. Electrochemists Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons decided to revisit room temperature fusion. Their technique is to pass current through an electrolytic cell consisting of a palladium PD cathode, platinum point anode, and LiOD, a compound of lithium, oxygen, and deuterium, or heavy hydrogen electrolyte in heavy water containing deuterium in place of the ordinary hydrogen. The cathodic reaction liberates unbound atoms of deuterium D, which enter palladium much more rapidly than do deuterium molecules. Under proper conditions, the concentration can build up to 0.9 or more deuterium atoms per palladium atom, at which point the loss of deuterium balances its rate of implantation. Pons and Fleischmann cells were part of a calorimeter heat measuring device, whose temperature rise on a few occasions indicated on the order of 10% excess power, that is, about 10% more power leaving the cell than electrical power used to run it. Izuku gazed at his audience and saw their stunned expressions. 1A had their jaws on the floor, and someone whispered, "Simple my butt." One pink-skinned girl, if he remembered, was named Mina, was grabbing her hair. Most of them looked like they had learned more about physics in the last 5 minutes than in their entire lives. He thought that he saw steam rising up from a few heads, and some looked to be brain dead. He heard the Nizu's manic laughter and witnessed him ripping apart a piece of paper and throwing it in the air. It looked like his IQ test. 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪 just stood there mumbling under his breath. And 𝗵𝘃𝗁 terrified him. She was looking at him like a piece of meat, and she was the predator. Her eyes were half-lidded and her face was extremely flushed and sweaty. Nizu, after collecting himself, stepped forward and presented him with a stack of papers and a pen. "Just like we agreed, Midoriya, we will now be business partners." He took them and started looking through documents. When he confirmed that everything was like it should be, not that he believed the principal would lie to him, he signed it and gave back with a massive smile. "Principal, if I may?" Yaoyorozu asked, gaining a nod. "What was that just now?" Nizu chuckled at the innocent question. "Let's just say that from today, the school and young Midoriya are kind of business partners, and I'm quite excited to see what else he has in store." Nizu was beyond excited to see what Izuku will bring in the future and hoped that he will continue to change the world. "Good job, Midoriya," said 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗪 walking towards him. Before he could get any closer, May appeared in front of Izuku and pulled him into a hug. "This is amazing, I can't believe you came up with something this amazing," yelled May, still red in the face, and had a sudden urge to kiss him. "He thank you, next step to become a hero," said Izuku with a fire in his eyes that made Nizu laugh even harder. Week later, "Stan, I have some good news," said Izuku over the phone. "Oh, what is it, Izuku?" said Stan, a little weak. "That project I've been working on for years, it's finally built, and it works, it really works," said Izuku. I'm so happy to hear that, Izuku, and I'm sorry I couldn't come, my doctor won't let me out of the hospital," said Stan. "It's okay, and I'll be sure to visit you this weekend," said Izuku. It'll be amazing to have your company." "Oh, sorry, I have to go, my nurse is calling me," said Stan. "Alright. Goodbye, Stan," said Izuku. "Goodbye, Izuku." Izuku was sitting on the holidable at his desk in his and May's workroom and reading about something that caught his attention. An asteroid called 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍 is passing by Earth and in 4 months would be close enough to possibly send a rocket and bring it closer. Not only that, but because of the precious metals, it'd easily be worth $10,000 quadrillion, thought Izuku as he leaned back into his chair. "Jarvis, do we have any sketches or plans that can go to space?" "As of no, sir, except the ideas for future space stations to colonize the galaxy." "Should I open up another private server to do so?" said Jarvis. Yes, and download all known information of space travel and everything needed to go to space and get ourselves an asteroid, said Izuku smirking. This world will lead to a new era and not be stuck in the past sucking its pee over quirks any longer. And not only that, but we only have a 4-month-long window to get that asteroid or it'll be out of reach for 5 years, said Izuku. Jarvis just chuckled. Should I ask Nizu for some advanced pay for this project? Knowing that he's already aware and will make sure I can do it without the government breathing down my neck. You're very right, Midoriya, said Nizu appearing out of nowhere. So will you make sure I'll have clearance to make rockets and send them to space? Because the plan I have in the works right now will first require me to send droids to our orbit and begin collecting all the space debris. After that I'll send more advanced robots up there and have them turn all the scrap metal into an orbital space station. That shall act as a refuel center for the rockets that will go and grab this asteroid I plan on getting, said Izuku. After that they'll move the asteroid closer to Earth and I'll have the space station move to the asteroid and anchor itself to it. Then I'll slowly start building off it and building a massive industrial plant on the asteroid and shuttle the resources back to Earth to my factories on Earth to turn them into a refined metal. Don't worry, Midoriya, I'll be sure to do that and I'll wire you some advanced payments to help speed up the process. Plus I'll help you start your own company if you'd like, said Nizu. I appreciate that, but I have my eyes on a company and I plan on buying it and turning into an industrial company, said Izuku. Oh, and what would that be? Said Nizu. Marvel Studios. I'll buy the title of it since it's a dead company and turn it into Marvel Industries and change this world with them, said Izuku. Nizu only grinned in response. I'll get the paperwork ready for you, said Nizu as he slowly faded away. Sir, that should be scientifically impossible to do that for him giving his quirk, said Jarvis, trying to compute how Nizu did that. Don't question it, Jarvis. From what I heard, it's pointless to question anything weird the rat does, said Izuku. He then went back and started to draw his blueprints of the rocket, robots, industrial factory, and space station. Izuku! Yelled May as she slammed the door open and ran towards him with stars in her eyes. I have a great idea for a baby we can make. What they didn't know was some of 1A that came down to ask them for gear were outside the door and heard this, and they all blushed. Oh, and what would it be? Asked Izuku curiously. A moisture collector that you can put in area of land devoted to the production of water through the drawing of moisture from the dry air. It depended on vaporators, a type of device that could harvest excess atmospheric humidity on hot and arid desert countries, said May, sounding very happy. Izuku looked shocked and noticed in her eyes was excitement, but deeper in them showed she was asking for approval. This is amazing, May. Maybe we can be business partners or do a joint company deal, said Izuku. No, I'd be fine with working for you as long as I get to make my babies. Submit. Izuku didn't know why but felt touched by that and smiled. Well, when I make my company you'll be head of manufacturing and building. May just smiled, not one of her big goofy ones but one of her rare true smiled and stuck her arm out. Then let's change the world together, partner. Let's change the world, May, said Izuku as he took her hand and shook it. I'm sorry for interrupting, but we'd like some help, said Ochako, entering the room with Momo, Jiro, Denki, and Mina. And what is it? Said Izuku. We'd like some support gear that can help us all, said Jiro. I can help make you amazing babies, yelled May as she pulled out an exosuit that almost crippled Power Loader. May no. Me yes. Izuku was walking out of the building when May ran up to him. Hey Izuku, my parents asked if you can watch me till them and my siblings come back, said May. Izuku looked confused and saw May's phone and felt his eyebrow twitch. Dad. Hello Izuku Midoriya, my name is 𝗂𝗂𝗵𝗃 and our daughter talks a lot about you and me and my wife would like to ask you to watch her for a while. The reason why is because last time we left her home alone she turned the entire house into one giant workshop in 3 hours. Izuku felt his eyebrow twitch again but sighed. Fine, tell them I'll watch you for a while, so come on, let's head to my house. My mom would love to meet you. May smiled and nodded her head, letting her parents know, and followed Izuku to his house. Mom, I'm home and I brought home a friend, said Izuku walking into the house. Hi sweetie, how was yo? Said Inko before she noticed May. My baby is growing up so fast and already has a appealing girlfriend. Izuku quickly ran over and tried to stop her from flooding the apartment with her tears, but it was too late. Mom, she isn't my girlfriend, she's just my friend, said Izuku. May felt sad about that since she's been researching about love and relationships since her conversation with Jarvis. She isn't your girlfriend yet, Izuku, said Inko, making him and May blush. Izuku sighed and him and May walked off, heading to his room so he can show her some of his gadgets and here he works on. This right here is my room, said Izuku, opening the door. Wow, it's like a smaller version of your lab, said May, looking around. My mom helped me get all this equipment over the years and also at my old job before I went to UA, said Izuku. May looked over and saw some mechanical arm on a pair of tracks and had a dunce hat on it. Why does he have a dunce hat on him? Submit. Spills my drinks and makes a mess so he's in timeout, said Izuku, glaring at the robot. Sad robot noises. So what would you like to work on while my mom makes us dinner? Said Izuku. May looked around the room and his blueprints and one thing caught her eye. It was cork restraining cuffs that cover the hands and other locks extend and latch onto the arms and body. To act like a metal straitjacket. What's this? Said May, never seeing a design this interesting before. Those are special cork restraining cuffs that prevent people with quirks that come from the hands from being used. Not only that, but if the person continues to fight, then the rest of the mechanism extends and locks the arms down to the upper body. To act like a massive straitjacket, said Izuku. May looked around a little more and saw plans for planes that are drones and controlled by AI and are powered by a small arc reactor. Above it had the logo Marvel Industries. She then looked and saw plans for colonization of the solar system with massive space stations. Let's work on the cuffs, said May, beyond amazed by his other future babies, but knew those will come in time. Izuku nodded and they both got to work and soon lost track of time while working and didn't realize it was dinner time. Izuku, handsome, dinner is done, said Inko. Coming, Mom, Miss Midoriya. They all sat down at the kitchen table and began to eat dinner while discussing future ideas and plans for the future. While they did, Inko leaned back and saw Izuku and May get into their own world while talking and couldn't help but smile. I'm so happy you found a appealing, smart woman, Izuku. Oh, I can't wait to see the grandbabies and knowing how handsome my son is. Maybe he'll find another girl out there and I can have even more grandbabies, thought Inko happily. Izuku was sitting in his lab welding some parts together to make the rocket. He'd need to go into space to drop off the drone, to start to collect all the space debris out there. He decided to make a rocket using a small arc reactor to save massive amounts of money on fuel and other materials. His plan was to have go to space and drop off the drone, then it'd slowly drift back to Earth and activate its thruster and safety land on the ground, where he can resupply it with more drones or things they would need to build the space station and soon factory up in space. He was cut off when an explosion went off and May was covered in soot from it. She's been trying to develop the vaporators but kept overwhelming the system with too much power, which resulted in the explosions. Izuku pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed and decided to look over his blueprints for a possible artificial gravity device he read about. It was possible, but no one was willing to do it because of the cost of it, but Izuku was willing to do it. He was determined to change the world forever and he will do it one step at a time. Jarvis, start running simulations of the designs I have for my artificial gravity for the space station, said Izuku. At once, sir, said Jarvis. He then pulled up a hologram on the massive device that will be the artificial gravity device. It was a rotating wheel with a diameter of 250 feet. The 3-deck wheel would revolve at 3 RPM to provide artificial 1/3 gravity. It was designed for a crew of 80. Sir, what shall you do to power the station and factory, especially since you have to be careful with waste materials from the factories? Any and all waste materials that can will be recycled to use, and anything that can't will be placed on the cargo transport that will arrive once a week to collect all the refined metals and bring them down here to Earth to my bigger factories and make them into whatever I need, said Izuku, going back to welding. I see, and why do you want to use the artificial gravity up there unless you're planning to have people up in space as well, said Jarvis. It will be for the crew of 80 I'll have trained and to keep the factory running, not that I don't trust AI. But it'd be easier to have people up there to help fix anything or move stuff that the robots can't, said Izuku. I understand, sir, and I'll continue to run simulations to see if your design running off the arc reactor will cause any problems, said Jarvis. Wow, that's amazing, said May, walking up to the 𝗧𝗵𝗿𝗆 and looking at the simulations that are running. So when will you start your company and start paying me? Nizu is talking to the government, convincing them to allow me to start sending rockets up in space and do all that I need to, said Izuku. What does he want in return? Said May, wondering why he's going through so much trouble to help Izuku. Wants to see people's reactions and see people pull their heads out there and realize we need to start advancing towards space, said Izuku. Sounds like him, said May. She then looked over and saw some other blueprints of a metal suit. What's that? That right there is gonna be what allows me to become a hero. I based the design from the comic books, and so far the simulations are all a success, and I already have the metals being cut so I can build it, said Izuku. That's amazing. Submit. Thank you, said Izuku as he went back to working. Good evening, class, said 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗀, standing in front of the class. I've come to inform you that the sports festival is 2 weeks away, and that for the next 2 weeks starting Monday you won't have to do any schoolwork and can spend all that time building any gadgets you think will help you in the sports festival. The class all nodded, understanding. Oh yes, and Midoriya Nizu requested you to come to his office, said 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗀. Izuku arrived in Nizu's office and sat down in the chair in front of him. Hello Nizu, so I heard that you wanted to see me, said Izuku. Nizu handed him a cup of tea and nodded. Yes, I have some good news for you, Midoriya. Oh, said Izuku, taking a sip of tea. Yes, the government has allowed you to send rockets in space as long as you understand that if anything goes wrong it'll all be on you. And your company, which I also was able to get the paperwork for you. Now you just need to sign the paperwork, said Nizu. Izuku smiled and reached over and grabbed the paperwork, looking over and reading all of it, making sure he understood everything. After 30 minutes of reading, he signed all the paperwork and handed it back to Nizu. Well, Izuku Midoriya, you are now the proud owner of the now Marvel Industries, and you can now start building everything you want and need. Especially once you get that asteroid out in deep space and bring it closer to Earth so you can start to mine it, said Nizu. Thank you, Nizu, said Izuku. No problem, Midoriya. Besides, I'm quite excited to see everyone's reactions when we reveal your inventions and what you'll be doing, said Nizu. Oh yes, that reminds me, you'll still have to go and build the factory, so what will do you for that? Oh, don't worry, Nizu, I already have that planned, I just need to talk to a student in one, said Izuku. Hello, Aizawa-sensei, said Izuku, entering 1A, getting curious glances from everyone but a glare from Katsuki. Midoriya, what can I help you with, said Aizawa, looking at him from his bandages. I need to speak with you, Raraka, said Izuku. Aizawa just grunted and gestured for her to go with him. Both Izuku and Uraraka were standing out in the hall. So, Midoriya, what did you need me for? Asked Ochako curiously. Ah yes, your family runs a construction company, right? Said Izuku. Yeah, said Ochako. Well, I'd like to hire your parents' company to build a factory and possibly a tower for me to run my business, said Izuku. Aren't you too young to do this? Nizu, said Izuku, making her sigh and nod. Well, I'll talk to my parents then, said Ochako, sounding slightly excited, hoping this will help her family. Well, I look forward to working with your family and hand them this so they know what they will be building, said Izuku, handing her an envelope. It has the blueprints of the factory, airstrip, rocket silo, rocket factory, and warehouse. Ochako nodded her head and smiled and went back to her class with the envelope, hoping this will help her family. All right, Jarvis, test 1 in 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Said Izuku as he activated his hand and feet repulsors and flung backwards into the air and smacked against the wall and fell to the ground. That could have gone better. I conquer, it was quite entertaining, said Jarvis. I hate you, I really hate you, Jarvis, said Izuku as he slowly stood up. So, sir, what do you have planned for your suit since you only have the arc reactor and the repulsors? Said Jarvis. The metal of the suit will be made from gold titanium alloy, and I'll also definitely need self-healing materials. For instance, key electronics will be made from liquid metal elastomer mixtures. If a circuit suffers serious mechanical damage, liquid metal droplets near the damaged site burst, spill liquid into the elastomer, and reform the circuit. Now that might prove handy when it comes to repairing any electrical damage from electrical quirks. I'll also add biosensors and wound treatment systems. Biosensors check for the presence of dangerous pathogens and chemical warfare agents, as well as biomarkers associated with biological responses to illness or injury. Said Izuku as he looked over at the machines that were cutting all the necessary material. That would be very good, sir, and in the future I believe you should look into possible nanobots, for they may be even handier, said Jarvis. I'll try, but it'd be easier if I met someone who's smart in that field, said Izuku. On Island, a appealing blonde girl sneezed. Sir, all the materials have been cut so you can begin working on the legs and chest, said Jarvis. Izuku nodded and began working on the boots for it while one of his robots helped him with it. After 12 hours he finished both sections and looked over at the clock and saw that it was 3 a.m. Ugh. Jarvis, I'll be taking a nap, wake me up at 7 so I can finish this. I only have 1 week until the sports festival, then I have to work twice as HRD on my space project, which thankfully Nizu let me take some of the construction robots to help 𝗬𝗧𝗢𝗏 construction finish my factory and launch pad. Way ahead of schedule, and hopefully will be done in 2 months instead of the projected 3-inch, said Izuku as he leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. Shall I slow down the process so the room can be quieter for you to sleep, sir? Said Jarvis. No, if need be, speed it up, but make sure it's all perfect. I can't have any delays on any of this, said Izuku before he passed out at his desk. Izuku started to stir from his sleep, feeling something extremely soft and comfortable, and couldn't help but want to go back to sleep. He laid there for a couple more minutes and tried to get more comfy when he heard a slight giggle. He slowly opened his eyes, and when he did he was met with May's appealing yellow crosshair eyes staring at him. Sleep well, said May, smiling. It took Izuku a couple seconds before he realized where he was. His head was laying on May's lap. In the blink of an eye he across the lab with a massive blush on his face. I'm so sorry, May, said Izuku. It's okay, Izuku, I put your head on lap since I thought it'd be more comfortable for you and so you can get better sleep, said May, smiling. Izuku blushed but managed to force it down after a second. Thank you, May, I really appreciate it. No problem, besides we're partners so we gotta look out for each other, said May happily. Oh, I made you some breakfast too. She then walked over to thermos container that kept their food or drinks warm. I made you a breakfast sandwich and a donut along with a cup of coffee. She handed them over and Izuku took a bite out of the sandwich. I think I'm in love, thought Izuku. Is it good? Asked May shyly. May, this is almost as good as my mom's, so it's really good, said Izuku. May blushed a little and felt some warmth in her heart at the compliment. I'm glad you like it. Plus my mom said it's the quickest way to a man's heart was through his stomach. Izuku quickly finished the rest of his breakfast and walked back over to his desk and got back to work on his suit, which thankfully now only had to be assembled. So May, how goes your project and the babies you're building for the sports festival? Said Izuku as he connected the power adapter from the arc reactor to the feet repulsors and saw that nothing went wrong and all parameters were in the green. It's going good. I found out the couplings were getting overloaded, so I bypassed them and rewired it, and now it's going good. Soon I'll have the first prototype out, probably after the sports festival, and when your factory is built and we get the contract for them, we can start building and selling them, said May. That's amazing, May, and once we do that we'll have to find a good price point for them to sell, said Izuku. 6 days later. Alright, it's time to suit up, said Izuku as he wore a black skin suit he designed and built that will regulate his temperature. So he can stay a comfortable warm or cool temperature regardless of how hot or cold it is outside. He walked onto the platform where the suit's shoes were, as it all started to break apart and multiple robotic arms came out and started to slowly build the suit on him. After a couple of minutes, all the parts of the suit were finished and he was standing in an all-silver suit and couldn't stop the grin from forming on his face when he saw the HUD show that everything was working properly. Jarvis, do a check on the control surfaces. As you wish, sir. The suit then started to move and show that all parts and pieces were working in proper order. Jarvis, start doing a weather and ATC check and start looking at ground control. I'm gonna take this baby for a spin, said Izuku. I would highly advise against that, sir, but I know you just ignore me, said Jarvis as he brought up the information to his HUD. This is amazing, said May, walking up to him and looking at the suit. Thank you, May, but I'd advise taking a step back. I'm gonna take this for a test flight, said Izuku. The repulsors then activated and he slowly lifted off the ground before he bent forward, and he then started to fly towards the open test hatch on the roof and flew off into the sky. Woohoo! He started to spin and take tight turns in the sky and couldn't keep the grin off his face. Jarvis, is Nizu in his office? Said Izuku. Indeed he is, sir. Izuku chuckled and flew towards it. Nizu was sitting in his office working on a story on his Wattpad account when he heard a strange noise and turned and saw a silver suit at his window wave as the faceplate opened, showing Izuku, then closed before he shot off into the sky. Ha. Nizu's cackling could be heard through the entire school and all the staff and students shuddered when they heard it, since it meant Nizu was in a good mood and might start messing with people more than usual. Jarvis set coordinates to the hospital where Stan is. It's thanks to him I'm achieving my dream and I want him to see my life's work, said Izuku. At once, sir, said Jarvis. Coordinates set, and at Mach 1 it will only take you 2 minutes to arrive. Izuku smiled and shot off quickly, breaking the sound barrier, heading to the hospital. Stan was laying in his hospital bed watching the news talking about the upcoming sports festival, and luckily for him the staff will allow him to go to it in person so he can see his grandson figure in action instead of on the TV. He was interrupted when he heard the sound of a jet engine and heard a knocking on his window, and when he turned to it he was amazed. Excelsior, Stan, said Izuku as he saluted him. Excelsior, said Stan, smiling happily as he watched Izuku shot off into the sky. Fly high, Izuku, and achieve your dreams. But don't ever forget who you are and where you came from. Come on, Izuku, just put it in. May, I don't think it will fit. Of course it will, and if not, just shove it in until it does. May, I think it's a little too big to just shove it in. Then use the lubricant and put it in. And don't be gentle, just slam it in the hole. May, are you sure? I don't want to hurt you by slamming it in the hole. I'll be fine, besides I trust you. Alright, said Izuku as he got it in position to put it in the hole. Ready. Ready. Click. Thanks, I completely forgot about that cable when I put these hover boots on, and if it wasn't for you I would have to take it all off and fix it, said May. No problem, May, I know you'd do the same for me, said Izuku, smiling. Izuku then reached over and began putting on his gear for the sports festival, which was a arc reactor on his chest, his hand and feet repulsors. He didn't want to reveal his suit until the 1v1 stage of the sports festival. Alright, let's get this show started. And today I have 2 special guests with me. One being our 1A teacher Eraserhead, and the other being our famous principal Annie. Screamed Present Mike. Hello everyone, I hope you all enjoy the slaughter, said Nizu, grinning. Everyone watching this immediately shivered. They still remember what happened last year to the 3rd years when Nizu was directly in charge. All the now heroes still have PTSD attacks from just hearing his name after that incident. Anyways, let's get this show on the road and begin. First, introducing Class 1A, said Present Mike. The crowd cheered, seeing the famous class that took on real-life villains. Now Class 1B, which isn't that far behind 1A in strength or courage. The crowd once again cheered. Now everyone else, said Present Mike before he got smacked in the back of the head by Aizawa. What the idiot means is support course and general studies, which also have talented students regardless if they aren't in the hero course, said Nizu. Izuku made a mental note to put laxatives in Present Mix orange juice next time. Now for this year's announcer I give you Midnight. All the men in the crowd and some of the women blushed seeing her walk up on stage. Hello everyone, thank you for coming and I hope all of you are excited for today's show. The announcer is the strongest member of 1A Katsuki Bakugo and the hidden genius of UA Izuku Midoriya. Both students walked up on stage but Katsuki glared at Izuku with pure murder in his eyes while Izuku ignored him. I just want to say I'm gonna win and the rest of you worthless losers should just quit, said Katsuki before he started to walk off stage. The crowd booed at him and Izuku decided to humor them by kicking him off the stage, making him face plant on the ground. Forgive my egotistical schoolmate, he is small where it counts so he has to make up for it by being rude to people because he can't get a girl desperate enough. Not only that but his ego complex is so big that not even Endeavor could compare to it, said Izuku. The crowd started to laugh and all the students began laughing at Katsuki because Izuku was roasting him. Not only that but it was on live TV in front of millions. Anyways, all of you do your best, regardless of what anyone says, all of you managed to get into UA, which is an achievement of its own. So don't let it get to you that you couldn't get into the hero course because you are all heroes for managing to get to this school. Izuku then bowed and walked off stage with the crowd cheering. That was an amazing speech, Midoriya. It turned me on, said Midnight, making Izuku face fault off the stage and end up a blushing mess. May felt a tinge of jealousy and when Izuku got near her she grabbed him and pulled him behind her while glaring at Midnight. Now the first challenge is an obstacle course and the students will have to run 4 kilometers and handle 3 stages of the race, said Midnight. All the students walked to the starting point and all stood there waiting for the signal to be given to begin the race. Ready and begin, said Midnight with the crack of her 𝗕𝗶𝗍𝗍. And the students began running but both Izuku and May took to the sky with Izuku flying over them with ease and May slowly catching up. She made a mental note to ask him for better ideas on her rocket boots since she didn't want to copy his ideas. Just then a massive glacier formed and Izuku recognized that it was most likely Todoroki trying to slow down the others and simply flew over it. They all continued to run down the hall and eventually they finally escaped it, and when they did they saw multiple giant robots, along with dozens of 1, 2, and 3 pointers in front of them. Priority target acquired, hit the angry Pomeranian and the nuts, said one of the 0 pointers as its fist reeled back to punch Katsuki. Why the FDO they want to hit me again? Screamed Katsuki, who was then hit in the nuts by a RBB bullet. Damn it, he squeaked. Sorry Baku bro, but I wanna win, said Kirishima running past Katsuki, who was getting attacked by the horde of robots. After this I'm gonna buy Nizu whatever type of tea he wants for not having power loader fix the robots, thought Izuku. Izuku flew past some of the robots and the robots then seemed to follow him and create a path or keep other students away. I love it when I unintentionally do something that ends up being awesome. Look at this, it seems the robots are protecting Midoriya and helping him get to the second obstacle, said Present Mike. Yes, during the UA entrance exam for the hero course, he decided to reprogram all the robots to make them tougher for the students, said Nizu. That's amazing, Principal Nizu. Have you seen anything like it, Eraser? Said Present Mike. No, now leave me alone and let me sleep. You're a party pooper. I hate you. Izuku reached the second obstacle and once again flew over it with ease and was quickly catching up to Todoroki. Behind him he heard a giant explosion and saw Katsuki flying at him looking like a bat out of hell. His whole body was covered in bruises and he could tell that most of the RBB bullets hit him in the pages. DKU. I'm going to kill you for this, screamed Katsuki in a high-pitched voice. Wow, I didn't know you did Mickey Mouse impressions, Bakugo, said Izuku loud enough for him to hear it. Izuku looked back and ignored the scream of rage and explosion. Bye Todoroki, said Izuku as he shot a repulsor blast at him which made him have to quickly roll out of the way. And the third stage is a minefield, yelled Present Mike. Izuku just flew over it while giving Katsuki the middle finger when he passed the finish line. And the winner is Izuku Midoriya. In second place is Shoto Todoroki. For third we have Momo Yaoyorozu. Fourth we got May Hatsum, said Present Mike. Katsuki was marching up to Izuku beyond pissed. Because of him he got 15th place because of those robots, and it was time he showed the quirkless freak who's in charge here. But before he could get any closer, he saw 𝗬𝗵𝗃 looking at him and shaking his head. Now that the first part of the sports festival is over, we can begin the second stage, which will be, said Midnight. As she turned a massive wheel that after a couple rotations landed on 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃. The rules are simple. You get in teams of 4 with 3 people carrying the 4th person, and your goal is to protect your headbands. The more handbands you have, or the ones that have more points, means you win. And for first place, the headband will be worth 10 million points. Oh, if you Nizu, thought Izuku, glaring at the viewing box up top where he swore he saw Nizu giving him the middle finger. I must say, Inko, your son is doing amazing, said Stan, sitting in one of the viewing boxes with her. Nizu decided to treat them and give them viewing boxes so it can be a little more quiet and not be as hot thanks to the AC. And did you see his tech and all his plans for the future? Said Inko. Yes, I did, and soon the world will see him as a real-life Iron Man, said Stan, smiling. Jarvis, how goes the calibrations and paint job for my suit? Said Izuku, talking into his earpiece. Almost done, sir. By the time the third stage would begin, everything will be ready, said Jarvis. Izuku, let's be teammates, yelled May, running up to him with stars in her eyes. All right. Now we just need 2 more people, said Izuku before he felt someone tap his shoulder. I'll join your team, Midoriya, said 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃, smiling. Thanks, 𝗬𝗪𝗃𝗁, said Izuku. Now for one more person, said Izuku before he saw a teen with purple hair and a tired look in his eyes. Shinso was looking for teammates when he felt someone grab his shoulder. Join our team, and don't worry, I already know about your quirk, said Izuku. Shinso looked at him for a moment before he nodded his head. All right, let's get the second event started. Before he could even say begin, all the teams started running. Some of them ran away from others while others charged at other teams. Remember, stay clear of Todoroki's and Bakugo's team. But if you do see Bakugo's, then feel free to insult him so he loses his composure and gets sloppy, said Izuku. It's scary how smart you seem to be, said Shinso. I train under Nizu a lot, said Izuku, making his teammates shiver. Please just don't become crazy like him, said 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃 pleadingly. I much prefer being composed when I mess with people, said Izuku. 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗹𝗶. Oh, I was wondering when Mr. Overcompensation was gonna show up, said Izuku. I'm gonna kill you. Are you just angry because Midoriya told the whole world you have a small PP, said Shinso, making 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃 snort. You worthless, said Katsuki before his eyes clouded. Good, now throw us your headbands and fly away, said Shinso, watching him do just that. Baku bro, come back, yelled Kirishima as him and his team ran off trying to catch him and bring him back down. Shinso, your quirk is awesome and I want to be your friend, said Izuku. Before Shinso could say anything, a massive glacier of ice appeared, blocking their path in front of them. 𝗬𝗪𝗃𝗁, May, it's time to fly, said Izuku. May activated her jetpack and hover boots while 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃 made them all weightless, and they all flew up while Izuku used his hand repulsors to stabilize them and control their flight a path. Sorry, daddy issues, but me and my team gotta leave, said Izuku as they flew high above the stadium. 𝗬𝗪𝗃𝗁, focus on one of us so you don't get sick. 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃 nodded her head and focused on Shinso so she doesn't get motion sickness. They all stayed flying high above the stadium, patiently waiting for the second round to end. While they did that, Izuku enjoyed watching Katsuki desperately run around trying to get his points so he can stay in the game. You really like messing with Bakugo, said 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃. If you knew our past, you'd encourage me too, said Izuku. Well, he isn't, but so I would regardless. Besides, it's funny to watch, said 𝗬𝗃𝗁𝗃, letting out another giggle. And time is up, everyone, yelled Present Mike. Izuku and his team all floated down to the ground and landed, and they were all smiling and cheering in happiness. Izuku could feel Katsuki's glare and he stuck his tongue out at him, pissing him off even more than usual. Now that the second stage is over, we shall give the students that passed 1 hour to rest and eat while we prepare for the 1v1s, said Nizu. Hello everyone, before we let all of you stretch your legs and get food, I have a special announcement to make, said Nizu, appearing on the center stage. No one wanted to know how he suddenly got there, nor will they ask. Nizu then pushed a button and the ground opened up and Izuku's arc reactor came up from the ground. This right here is the world's first cold fusion reactor, which was designed and made by our very own student Izuku Midoriya, said Nizu. It's the world's first true clean energy that doesn't produce any form of pollution. Izuku watched and listened as Nizu then went on and explained the dumbed-down version for everyone. He then talked about his company Marvel Industries and some of the things it will do and how it will be opening in the next week or two, and applications will be available very soon. Not only that, but these are some of the other things they will be doing is building these. Just then 2 massive holograms covered the field, showing a hyperloop and a space elevator. As you can see right here, these 2 concepts shall revolutionize our country and the whole world. The first one is the hyperloop, which will change travel across the country or world dramatically. While the other is the space elevator, which is self-explanatory and will help us become a spacefaring race. Izuku can already hear and see all the calls and emails he'll be getting very soon. He already made a lot of money. What 16-year-old needed to make 350 million yen a week from just powering UA and the nearby city? $3,047,201. 15. And once his company starts growing, then that number is going to increase massively and he'll probably be near or bigger than what Elon Musk made back in the pre-quirk era before everyone became obsessed with quirks. From what he projected and calculated, he'll be making well over $900 billion a year by the time he's 18, and once he's in his 30s that number will be in the trillions. After that, the arc reactor was put back and everyone started to leave to get food. Izuku was sitting in the canteen area and was eating a hamburger which Lunch Rush made for him. Midoriya, I want to talk to you, said Todoroki. No thanks, daddy issues, I'm eating, said Izuku. Todoroki glared at him and stomped off angrier than before. Midoriya, why were you mean to him just now? Asked Ochako. He probably wanted to tell me about how his life was sad and all that icky, so I'd feel bad, said Izuku. Alright everyone, let's get started, and for our first match it will be Ochako Uraraka versus Overcompensation. Wait, what? I'm not apologizing, said Jarvis. Katsuki gritted his teeth in anger and decided to take it out on Ochako since she was friends with Izuku. And begin, said Present Mike. Before Ochako could even move, Katsuki was in front of her and slammed his fist into her face with an explosive punch. He then stomped his foot on her chest, cracking the ribs and making her scream in pain. He then pinned her down and proceeded to beat her face in with explosive punches and not allowing her to call quits. The crowd watched in horror as this happened, and some of the teachers felt disgusted and enraged that he was doing this. Katsuki then put his hand over Ochako's face and his hand glowed. This will teach you a lesson, he grinned darkly. But before he could release the explosion, a giant metal fist punched him in the face, knocking him across the ring. He looked up and saw a giant robot that Izuku used to lift and move heavy objects. Uraraka, are you okay? Said Izuku, holding her. She didn't respond because she was beating into unconsciousness and her entire face was swollen, and he can feel multiple broken bones, along with massive burns across her face, which luckily recovery could heal. Get a medical bot right now, screamed Izuku. Katsuki huffed and looked at Midnight. Call the match, that worthless beach lost. Midnight glared at him but called him the winner, and Katsuki looked at Izuku. Let that be a lesson on trying to be friends with people who have quirks, Deku, because I'll do the same to that pink-haired beach. The entire stadium was booing at him, but he just ignored it and stomped off. The teachers were all glaring at him as he walked away, and Nizu was planning to have a long talk with him after the festival. The medical bots came and Izuku followed them to the infirmary, but Recovery Girl wouldn't let him in because she needed to perform surgery. So he sat there on a bench clenching his fists in anger, and a couple minutes later May, Shinso, Momo, Mina, Ida, Jiro, and Tsu came down. Is she okay? Said Mina, worried. She said she'll be fine but she's currently in surgery, said Izuku. I'm going to beat him black and blue. Midoriya, you're a UA student, you show. Shut up, He's doing this because of me. If it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have done that to her. So he attacked her that brutally only because she's your friend, said Momo. Yes, said Izuku with clenched fists before he pushed a button on his earpiece. Jarvis, run all calibrations on my suit and get it ready to kick that 𝗕𝗄𝗧𝗋's butt. At once, sir, and should I get the special present ready? Yes. I want him to know that he's no longer up top and he's nothing more than a raging toddler. Izuku was about to stand up and leave when the door opened and Recovery Girl came out. She's a little woozy but you can all go see her, said Recovery Girl. Will Mina Ishido and 𝗵𝗃𝗲 please come down to the ring for your match, said Present Mike. You guys go cheer your friends on, I'll make sure she's okay, said Izuku, and may good luck. You as well, Ishido-san. They all nodded and left and Izuku walked in and saw Ochako laying in the bed with her face wrapped in bandages. You okay, Uraraka? Said Izuku walking up to her and standing next to the bed. Yeah, I'm okay, said Ochako quickly. Uraraka. You don't have to hide it from me, you can talk to me if you want, said Izuku. She wanted to say she was fine but she started to cry and reached over to Izuku and pulled him into a hug. I was so scared I felt like I was gonna die, sobbed Ochako. Izuku just gently patted her back while hugging her to try and comfort her. Izuku, can you please just hold me like this for a little longer, said Ochako. He was a little shocked that she used his real name but nodded his head. Sure, Uraraka, I'll always be here if you need a shoulder to lean on. Ochako, call me Ochako. And they will have a brother and sister relationship in this story with Ochako viewing him as an older brother figure. The matches continued and May beat Mina. Ida beat Aoyama. Todoroki beat Zero. Ibara beat Denki. Tokoyami beat Momo. Now it was Izuku's turn and he was going against his new friend Shinso, but he decided not to use any of his gear and just have a hand-to-hand fight. Izuku was walking out onto the field and across he saw Shinso also walking out and they both stopped a couple feet from each other. I see you got rid of your tech, said Shinso. Thought it'd be a little more fair to fight you without it instead of just flying over you and shooting you, said Izuku. Shinso just smirked. Are both fighters ready? Said Midnight looking at them both, then begin. Both of them ran at each other with Izuku ducking under a punch and put him in a hold by wrapping his right arm around his neck. With the rest of his body going under his extended arm and locked his arms together slamming him to the ground. Shinso was slammed into the ground and kneed Izuku in his side trying to make him let go of the hold. After a couple of strikes, Izuku let him go and rolled away and stood up while holding his side. They both glared at each other with Shinso running at him and trying to kick him in his side, but Izuku dodged it and countered with a punch to the gut. Shinso fell and before he could remove Izuku was above him with his arm cocked back. Yield, said Izuku. I yield. The winner is Izuku Midoriya, said Present Mike with everyone clapping and cheering. Izuku stood up and held his hand out and helped Shinso up. Good fight, Shinso. Hey, maybe we can train together and both of us achieve our dreams, said Izuku. I'd like that, said Shinso as he followed Izuku out of the ring. The next match was Katsuki versus Kirishima and he didn't hold back against him and utterly beat him and humiliate him in front of everyone by calling his quirk stupid and weak before he threw him out the ring with an explosion. The next match was May versus Tokoyami with May winning by using light grenades she made that acted like flashbangs. This easily allowed her to overwhelm him and win. The match after that was Ida versus Ibara, but before Izuku could watch it someone came up to him. Hey Izuku, said Ochako finally being released from the infirmary. Ochako, how's it going? Said Izuku. I'm doing much better and Recovery Girl said I can remove the bandages in 2 days and my wounds will be completely healed, said Ochako. Ha, that's amazing, Ochako, said Izuku before he saw that Ida was starting to win the match. Sorry guys, but I gotta go and get ready to defeat someone with daddy issues then beat a piece of SHT up. He then stood up and left, heading back to UA to get his suit. "Oh, I can't wait to see Izuku's baby. It's gonna shock the whole world," said May, very excited. Everyone looked at her with curiosity, but in the back Katsuki glared at her and was waiting for his match with her so he can beat her worse than he did Ochako to show Izuku what happens when he has friends. Alright everyone, now for the match that will determine the last person for the semi-finals, yelled Present Mike. We have the son of the number 2 hero, Shoto Todoroki. And in the other corner we have the genius who is being taught by our principal, Izuku Midoriya. Everyone watched as Todoroki walked up in the ring, but no one else was there. Everyone was wondering if he ran away when the PA system crackled. Then the massive TV screen showed a red and gold object rocketing towards the stadium in extremely fast speeds. It wasn't long before they heard the sound of rockets and they all saw the red and gold object fly above the stadium and make a nosedive towards the ground, and it landed on its knees with its fist planted in the ground, doing a superhero landing. "So, Daddy issues you ready to fight," said Izuku, standing up in his Iron Man suit and the face plate opening up showing his smirk. Izuku and Todoroki stared at each other, waiting for midnight to start the match. Todoroki noted that high above them was a flying container that had the same color scheme as Izuku did. "And begin," yelled Midnight with the crack of her 𝗕𝗶𝗍𝗍. Before anyone could react, Todoroki created a massive glacier covering the entire arena and reaching the top of it. "Call the M," said Todoroki before the glass shattered and he was shot in the stomach from a repulsor blast from Izuku. He looked up and glared, seeing Izuku pry his way out of the ice like it was nothing. "You're gonna have to try harder than that to beat me, Candy Cane," said Izuku, enjoying the look of annoyance on his face. Todoroki glared and sent another glacier at Izuku. He just rolled his eyes and destroyed it again with a repulsor blast. "You going to do something different, or are you just going to keep trying the same strategy over and over again? Because if you are, I'm just going to start watching a movie in the suit," said Izuku. "Shut up," snarled Todoroki, sending another giant ice attack at him, which Izuku batted away again. "Jarvis, pull up a movie I like and put the suit on autopilot because this isn't going anywhere," said Izuku, making the crowd laugh. For the next 5 minutes Todoroki kept sending massive ice attacks at Izuku and would once in a while move to another spot to attack him. Meanwhile, Izuku was watching The Batman, which was released 200 years ago in 2022. "Why won't you take me seriously?" yelled Todoroki, hating this. Izuku paused the movie and looked at him with a bored expression under his helmet. "Because you're doing the same thing and you are nothing more than a whining brat with some daddy issues. Get over yourself, people have bigger problems than you and yet they keep moving forward," said Izuku. "You don't know anything about me. And why would I? You've done nothing but keep to yourself more than emo kids did back in 2007. Please don't tell me you wear black and dye your hair all the time and complain about how hard life is so you get attention." Todoroki snarled again and sent a massive ice attack at Izuku, who just flew above it. "Oh, did I touch a nerve? Don't worry, pretty boy, I'll get your makeup to make you feel better." He then dodged another ice attack that was even slower than the last one. "Or are you just mad that daddy didn't tuck you in at night?" He dodged another attack. "Would you like me to get you some burn cream for how much I'm roasting you? Though I don't think it'll help that scar on your face for how bad you got burned back then, even though you have an ice quirk. 𝗬𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗧. No, that would be Bakugo. I'm a millionaire genius who enjoys roasting people who annoy me," said Izuku. Haha. Nizu kept cackling at Izuku, just roasting Todoroki and making him have a little temper tantrum. "You're enjoying this way too much, sir," said Present Mike. "Leave him alone, this is funny," said Aizawa, enjoying the chaos as his boss likes to say. "Man, Todoroki, you look cold. Only if you could warm yourself up," said Izuku, watching him shiver from overuse of his quirk. "𝗳𝗍𝗧𝗍𝗧 defeat you," stuttered Todoroki, who was shivering uncontrollably. Well, I could get you some hot tea, but I noticed you like to have it cold only, so you're on your own for that unless you warm it up, said Izuku. F you. Oh, do you kiss your mom with that mouth? Then again, she's been with me lately, so probably not, especially for how loud she screams my name. Todoroki slammed his hand on the ground and sent a massive glacier at Izuku as fast as he could. Izuku destroyed it once again and flew forward and punched him in the gut while lifting him over himself and slamming him into the ground. You won't defeat me without your fire. But I don't care if you use it or not, because you won't be a good hero with your little grudge, said Izuku. He then picked him up and opened his faceplate. So stop blaming the world and deal with your own problems, said Izuku before he threw him out of the ring. Winner Izuku Midoriya, yelled Midnight, smiling. Izuku waved to the crowd and walked away with his hovering object following him for his fight against Katsuki. Alright everyone, I have an announcement. Ito won't be participating in the semifinals because he had a family emergency. Because of this, there will only be one match for the semifinals before we reach the finals. The fighters are Katsuki Bakugo versus 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃, said Present Mike over the intercom. May please pull out of the match. As much as I want you to stay, and when I don't even want to imagine what he's going to do to you, said Izuku. Don't worry Izuku, I'll be okay. Besides, I have that stuff me and you worked on just for him, said May, smiling. Okay, please be careful, said Izuku, hugging her. May felt her heartbeat quicken and she forced a blush down. Don't worry, I will, and I'll see you in the finals. All right everyone, are you ready for the semi-finals? Yelled Present Mike. The entire crowd cheered loudly and May and Katsuki walked up on stage, and May was carrying a metal-looking SQR gun. Hey, you think something like that can defeat me? You're as stupid as I thought you, beach, said Katsuki. May just frowned and got ready for the match. And begin. Katsuki had the same strategy for dealing with her as he did for Ochako, but this time he was going to make sure it was permanent scar damage. Before he could get close, May dropped a grenade which exploded and green goo shot out and landed on Katsuki. What the F? Snarled Katsuki as he tried to make an explosion but couldn't because the goo was blocking his pores in his hands. This is for Ochako, yelled May as she used a baseball bat she attached a rocket engine to and swung it where it hit him in the ball with twice the force as a professional Major League Baseball player. Katsuki fell on the ground holding his nuts while trying to stay conscious. One good everything is there, he squeaked out. Jarvis heard this and played it on the loudspeakers so everyone can hear that Katsuki only has one ball. Izuku fell on the ground for how hard he was laughing, and Ochako was trying to calm him down while also laughing. Stop laughing, said Katsuki in a high-pitched voice. You sound like Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks, yelled Izuku, who was still laughing his butt off. Katsuki was getting pissed and charged at May, trying to take her down but kept getting hit by her baseball bat every time, and he couldn't use his quirk. The fight continued with it looking like May was going to win when Katsuki finally got a spark and released a massive explosion. May covered her eyes, but once she stopped she was hit by an explosive punch to her face. She rolled away and tried to use another gadget when Katsuki moved in and choke slammed her into the ground and kept her pinned, while beating her face in like he did to Ochako. May kept squirming and couldn't say she yielded because he was crushing her windpipe. Bakugo, that is enough, yelled Midnight, but he ignored her and started to use explosive punches. Midnight moved forward and restrained him. May was carted off to the medical ward while Bakugo was shoved off the stage and told after the games he'll be getting a long talk from Nizu. Izuku was in the infirmary holding May's hand in his, but sadly he was still wearing the suit so he couldn't feel it. May, I promise I'll make him pay, said Izuku quietly. May slowly opened her eye and saw Izuku looking at her with his helmet off. May, said Izuku, pulling her into a hug. She slowly realized that she couldn't see out her right eye and felt that there were some bandages over it and on the right side of her face. Izuku, what happened? Bakugo, he spat the word with venom. He used his explosive punches on you and... burned your face and damaged your eye. Luckily Midnight called the match and stopped him, or else you'd be permanently blind in that eye. Oh. They both sat in silence before Izuku stood up. You get better, I gotta teach that 𝗕𝗗𝗁𝗧𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗄 a lesson, said Izuku. Izuku, wait. 𝗬𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗆 what is I? He was cut off by a warm soft pair of lips on his own, and after a second she pulled away and blushed while brushing some hair behind her ear. Consider that a good luck present, she said shyly. Izuku's body went on autopilot and slowly walked out while his brain tried to process that he was just kissed by May. Katsuki stood in the middle of the ring waiting for Izuku to show up. Call the match, that quirkless freak isn't going to show up. Before Midnight could say anything, the speakers started to play that song again and fireworks and smoke started to appear. They heard the sound of rockets and saw Izuku come flying down and landed with fireworks around the ground going off, making him stand out even more. I see why Tony loved dramatic entrances now, said Izuku to himself. So you finally show up so I can show you your place, Deku. No, I came here to deal with someone whose ego is so big you need the James Webb telescope just to see it. Are both fighters ready? Said Midnight, not getting an answer but could feel the tension. Fight. Katsuki lunged right at Izuku and released a giant explosion at him, and then felt unbelievable pain as he saw that Izuku was holding his wrist. You're weak, Bakugo, said Izuku, kicking him away. Why don't you get out of the fancy suit of yours and fight me? And why would I do that? Are you scared that I might actually beat you? Does it bother you that you might lose to someone who is quirkless? Katsuki gritted his teeth and charged at him again and sent lots of powerful explosions at him, and they didn't even scratch the paint. Izuku simply walked forward while extending his arm out. Crusher, he said, and the flying box he brought opened up. A part flew out and attached to his arm, making a large object on top of his forearm that looked like a hydraulic piston. Katsuki charged at Izuku, but he didn't know that Izuku had his fighting style analyzed, so he's able to block and deal with it. Izuku tanked an explosion and grabbed his wrist, almost breaking it, and he punched him in the stomach with his fist, then used the piston, which hit him with enough force he fell to the ground and puked out 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, said Izuku as a pair of cuffs shot out of Izuku's arms and latched onto Katsuki's hands and tightening down. You think something this stupid will stop me? Snarled Katsuki, standing up and using his quirk. He fell to the ground with smoke leaving the cuffs, and he was crying in pain. Like my neat little gadget. It was designed for people with quirks based around their hands but can be used to restrain almost anyone, said Izuku, watching Katsuki wither in pain as you kneeled on the ground. Izuku stared at him, then shot his back with his repulsor, making him fall and lay on the ground. Stay down, final warning. Katsuki forced his body up, but before he could get on his hands and knees, Izuku punched him in the back of his head right into the concrete, cracking it and knocking him out. Don't ever touch my friends again, said Izuku. Winner Izuku Midoriya. The entire stadium started to cheer for his win. Izuku stood in the first place podium, with the second place being Katsuki, who was awake and tied and restrained. The third one was Todoroki, who was looking at his left hand. Let me out so I can kick that quirkless failed abortion's butt, screamed Katsuki while trying to escape, but still had Izuku's cuffs on him. Restrain, said Izuku as the cuffs then extended and latched onto his back and forced his head to the ground in the bowing position. With hurt him because of the chains that were also holding him. A piece of the metal also latched onto his mouth so he couldn't scream or talk. I am here with metals, yelled All Might as he fell to the ground and stood up smiling brightly. He walked up to the three students and smiled. Good job, you three, said All Might, strained while staring at Katsuki. You did good, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. He then walked up to Todoroki and placed the bronze medal on him while pulling him into a hug. You did great, young Todoroki, but don't let your past control you or you'll never be a good hero, said All Might. I'll try my best, sir. All Might smiled and walked over to Katsuki and was about to say something when he started to trash on the ground. You did All Might didn't know what to say, so Izuku spoke up. You acted like a villain and showed the whole world why you shouldn't be a hero, said Izuku. All Might just put the medal in front of him and walked up to Izuku. Young Midoriya, you did absolutely amazing today, and not only that but you showed some amazing inventions you made. We're going to make that shield change the world, and I cannot wait to see you what else you do in the future. I hope to one day work alongside you if you become a hero, said All Might, placing the gold medal on his neck. Thank you All Might, said Izuku. That's the end of the sports festival everyone, and I want to congratulate everyone who participated and showed up. Now it's endless with the UA motto. Plus Ultra. Plus Ultra. Yelled All Might, with the crowd joining in at the end of it. For days after sports festival, Izuku and May got hundreds of invites to internet companies, but they both decided not to, and Nizu allowed them to work on their own company. Since Izuku already knew how to make business deals that heavily favored him and how to run a company. He was looking at his factory of Marvel Industries, which just finished construction, and he was watching the construction bots finish building the rocket, which he based the design off of the Falcon 9, except he was able to quadruple its weight-carrying capabilities because it ran off of an arc reactor instead of fuel. You and your workers are doing amazing, Mr. Uraraka, said Izuku, watching them finish moving everything in and install all the gear. Thank you, Mr. Midoriya, that means a lot, and my daughter has been speaking highly of you, he said, chuckling. I simply encouraged her and gave her some gear to help her be a great hero, said Izuku, walking over to his arc reactor he built to power the factory. Even so, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for my family and company, he said. Izuku walked to the arc reactor and began the process of turning it on, and after a couple seconds the blue glow and gentle hum was heard. The giant arc reactor was on and working and powering the entire plant. So have you gotten anyone trying to start working for my company? Said Izuku, looking back at him. Yes sir, you have lots of people, and I sent all the information to Jarvis so he can process them and see who to hire and who not to hire, he said. Thank you, and you're good to go. I need to make some calls in my office, and I'll see you in 2 days for our first rocket launch, said Izuku. Of course, and have a good day, Mr. Midoriya, he said before he walked away. Izuku climbed the stairs, passing some painters and construction workers finishing up the final parts of the factory, and he was heading to his office, which was fully furnished. He sat down at his desk and turned on his hollow computer. Jarvis, read me my emails while I finish this letter for the Minister of Electricity, since he contacted me asking for a business deal, said Izuku. Of course, sir. Your first letter is from the United States, and they are asking the same thing that the Minister of Electricity was asking about the arc reactors. And they're willing to make a business deal stating that you own all the rights and blueprints for it, so no one else can just copy and steal it. You have a couple other letters from some other countries, all said the exact same thing. The next major one from here is from the Prime Minister wishing to have an audience with you at the day that you launch your rockets to talk about possible business deals to help the country. The last one you have is from NATO and them asking if you'd be willing to make deals to build arc reactors in countries to produce clean energy. And to make other deals on your space elevator and hyperloop that you'll be doing, said Jarvis. Oh, I can already see all the butt kissing and money I'll be getting, said Izuku, chuckling. That's just business and politics, sir, said Jarvis. I'm aware you smart-ass AI and send letters to all of them telling them to come here on the day and watch the rockets, then we'll be able to do a business deal, said Izuku. At once, sir, said Jarvis. Also contact Mr. Uraraka and tell him to begin construction on the other factories and warehouses for the airplane facility that we'll be doing soon, said Izuku. It was the day that Marvel Industries would launch its first rocket, and representatives to lots of European countries, South Korea, the United States, India. Even the Prime Minister of Japan came to see this in person. They all got out of their cars when they heard the sound of a rocket engine and looked and saw a massive rocket with Marvel Industries painted on the side of it, and it was covering 15 miles every second, which is 3 times faster than any rocket used nowadays. They all walked into the main building and saw Izuku and a bunch of workers along with Nizu and May standing next to him. Hello ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the future. Marvel Industries seeks to finally get humanity out of the crevice known as quirks and get us to finally realize we need to start colonizing the stars. The first stage of Marvel Industries will be to capture a giant meteorite that is orbiting somewhere between Jupiter and Saturn. We will be launching a rocket very soon in the future, most likely in the next week, and it will fly all the way out there and latch onto the meteorite and bring it back to orbit around Earth. After that happens, we will begin construction on it and build a factory either on it or orbiting above it and begin mining it for its precious resources. The second stage of doing that will be to send lots of the resources down here to Earth, where we shall begin construction on the space elevator so we do not need rockets anymore. Once a space elevator is constructed, we will begin building lots of stations and platforms up at the top of the cable, and we will be able to transport about 5,000 tons of material down to Earth every single day, which will help us. The third stage will be building an orbital space station that will head to Mars and begin orbiting it, and it will have a crew of over 80 people. After it has entered orbit, it will wait for the second rocket to come in, which will have all the other necessary resources they will need to begin constructing a permanent base on Mars for us being colonizing it. The fourth stage will be to start terraforming the planet, and once we begin terraforming it, we will be able to start sending more and more people there, and Marvel Industries will be building the world's first space transport system, which we will be able to transport people to and from both planets for 6 months out of every 2 years. And while we are doing all of this, I'll begin making deals with any countries in the world that want to have arc reactors in their country to power them with clean energy, but any and all our facilities will belong exclusively to Marvel Industries. Another thing that we shall also be building will be the Hyperloop, which will be able to change transportation to being something that's expensive or takes a long time to something that can be cheap and can be extremely fast speeds. For example, for the representative of the United States. With a Hyperloop I will be designing, you will be able to go from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Chicago, Illinois in just 30 minutes, and it will only cost people $60. Or here in Japan, going from Tokyo to Osaka, it will only take 15 minutes. It only cost 3,568.52 yen per trip. Another thing that Marvel Industries will be working on will be prosthetics that will be able to help injured people be able to walk again. And I don't mean the singles, I mean permanently disabled ones. Also, my colleague 𝗵𝗃𝗲 has been working on something that will help desert countries get water, and I have to be extremely high prices for them. And for the designs I have for the new arc reactors, I will be able to build them to be big enough and powerful. Enough that just one of them could potentially power all of Japan by itself, said Izuku before he looked at everyone. So tell me, would all of you like to get in on this business deal before it's too late? All the representatives immediately pulled out their phones and began going their representative countries to sign the deal. I see your dream is coming true, Midoriya, said Nizu, climbing up to his shoulder and sitting on it. Izuku reached over and grabbed a piece of cheese from a robot servant that was offering food and handed it to Nizu. Yes, and I'll enter in that test soon so I can become a hero. Also, what will you be doing with Bakugo? Oh, don't worry, I'll be having a long talk with him very soon, and I'll be making things very, very clear for him, said Nizu, chuckling. Izuku, yelled Ochako, running up to him holding a letter. Look, I was accepted to learn under the pro hero gunhead. That's amazing, Ochako, said Izuku, looking up from his new suit he was working on. It was a smaller suit that could fold into a backpack so he could suit up anywhere, but sadly he hasn't figured out how to make it bulky enough so he can fly long distances and make it as small as he needs. Thanks, Izuku, she said, smiling brightly. Izuku didn't know why, but he reached over and rubbed the top of her head, and she seemed to smile more brightly and lean into it. So, what are you working on, and where's May? She asked. She's visiting her sister who just came back from America, and I'm working on a new suit that I can keep on me at all times, and I'm calling it the Mark II. The Mark II has red and silver plates, and is much thinner than the regular plating of my Iron Man armor, and has a weaker armor composition to reduce the weight and size of the stored suit. The Mark II is an emergency-only suit, and thus is only equipped with the basics of my arsenal, namely hand-mounted repulsors. Apart from its lack of heavy weapons and its light weight, it can still fly. However, it cannot reach high altitudes or speeds, and is limited in the weight it can carry during flight, but the advantage of flight means I can escape situations that I would potentially lose in without the flight capabilities. That's amazing. And you can fit all that in your backpack, she said, amazed that he was able to do this when a short while ago. He had his Mark I and he required assistance from the suit assembler to suit up. And I already have designs and sketches of the next suits I'm going to be making in the future. I even have one being built that I'm hoping will allow me to fight those giant gnome creatures, said Izuku. Well, if anyone can do it, I know you can, Izuku, she said, smiling proudly. Thank you, 𝗬𝗧𝗂𝘁. Oh, I also made you this for emergencies, said Izuku as he pulled out a little box and handed it to her. What is it? Said 𝗬𝗧𝗂, looking at it in curiosity. Put it on your hand and push the button on it, said Izuku. 𝗬𝗧𝗂 did just that and it came apart and created a metal glove covering her hand and looked like it had a repulsor on it. It's a sound glove. It can shoot compressed sound waves much like my own sound cannon that I created, said Izuku. Why you didn't have to do this for me, said 𝗬𝗧𝗂 as she took it off and tried to give it back. But I wanted to. I don't want to see people I care for get hurt, and it'd make me feel better if you carried this with you, said Izuku as he gave it back to her. 𝗬𝗧𝗂 smiled and pulled him into a tight hug and whispered under her breath, Thank you, Oni-chan. When she said that, her eyes went wide and she was about to run away in embarrassment, but Izuku hugged her tighter and rubbed the top of her head. You can call me that if you want, 𝗵𝗃𝗄, said Izuku. They then just stayed there smiling and holding each other, happy about finally having a brother-sister figure in each other's lives. So Bakugo, do you know why you're here? Said Nizu with his usual happy smile, but anyone who knew him knew he was pissed. No. So why the F am I here? Snarled Katsuki, not caring about showing respect. Nizu looked at Katsuki for a moment and grinned, and one of his fangs was exposed. Katsuki didn't know why, but he knew he just dug his own grave at that very moment. Mitsuki and Musser Bakugo were walking through UA, heading to the support department to apologize to Izuku for how their son treated him. They were informed by a police officer named Detective 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗄, who looked into Izuku's past and unraveled some of the truth of the past. When the parents found out, they were horrified at what their son did to Izuku. They also felt horrible for what he did to those two girls in the sports festival. As they continued walking, a girl with pink hair ran past them, cackling as she ran to Izuku's private support department room and slammed the door open. Izuku, my sister gave me some great ideas for babies we can make, yelled May, running into the room. Mitsuki and Masaru looked at each other and ran to the door to see what the hell was going on. As they got near it, they heard an excited voice. ND, we can use your repulsors from your suit and make flying cars to minimize car traffic. We can make the cars completely automated, so you just tell it where you want to go and it flies and lands there, yelled May in excitement. We can make the cars completely automated, so you just tell it where you want to go and it flies and lands there, yelled May in excitement. 23. Me and my sister spent 5 days designing this, but we wanted to hear what you had to say. Izuku overlooked the design of it and saw that it could carry up to 4 people and it had lots of safety precautions to protect the passengers. If it crashed, they would be safe and at most would have some light bruising. This is amazing, May. So how high can it fly? And what's its speed and range? Said Izuku, looking up from the hologram of it. It can fly up to 1,000 feet and its top speed is 300 miles per hour, and its range depends on the power source you make for it, Izuku, yelled May. I won't use a arc reactor. I'll probably make something in between a arc reactor and a giant battery to fit in the back of the car, and I'd make its range at least 700 miles, said Izuku. I knew you'd like it, said May before she gave him a big fat kiss on his cheek, then ran off. I'm gonna start working on a prototype. Izuku blushed at May's affection. Hehe, I see you got yourself a good girlfriend, Izuku Oni-chan, said 𝗬𝗧𝗂𝘁, smiling. Well, we aren't dating yet. Maybe I should ask her out, said Izuku. Said 𝗬𝗧𝗂𝘁. Izuku, said Mitsuki, walking up to him. He turned and looked at his auntie and uncle. Hi, Auntie Mitsuki, how are you? She didn't say anything but just walked up to him and hugged him tightly. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, said Mitsuki, hugging him tightly with tears rolling down her face. It's okay, I don't blame you or Uncle Masaru. It's society and school that was at fault for turning him into that, along with his own pride and ego, said Izuku. 𝗧𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗃𝗃. What the F do you mean I'm being sent to general studies? Screamed Katsuki at Nizu, who didn't even react to the screaming. You're lucky I don't expel you. The only reason why you're being sent to general studies is so UA can monitor you while the investigation continues. But if we find enough evidence, I'll have you expelled and sent to police custody along with you being blacklisted from every hero school in the world, said Nizu. This is bullshit. I can give you to the police right now. But I'm not going to because I want you to witness the cause of your mistakes. Besides, Bakugo, thanks to you being thrown out of hero course, maybe Midoriya or Shinso can take your place and be a real hero, unlike people like you and Endeavor who only care for fame and power. Katsuki gritted his teeth to the point his gums were bleeding. It's not fun now, is it? Having everything you've worked for and trained to get all be torn down before your very eyes. Oh, and I almost forgot. Midoriya is going to be having a meeting with Detective 𝗧𝗵𝗲 since apparently he has all the recordings of his past with you and the schools, chirped Nizu, when he said that all the BLD drained from Katsuki's face and it ran cold. And I'm guessing from your face you know what that means, don't you? Said Nizu with a dark grin on his face. All your hard work will be gone, Bakugo. You will never be a hero. Just then Aizawa walked in and put a quirk suppressant collar on Katsuki's neck. This was made by Midoriya to completely suppress any and all quirks. And don't even think of trying to tinker or take it off cause it has a couple nasty surprises for you, said Aizawa. He already asked Midoriya for a dozen of these and those cuffs he made because of how useful they will be when capturing villains. They also have a tracker and can't be taken off unless the people with the 3 keys unlock it and give the passwords, said Aizawa. I think that's all, Bakugo. Now please leave my office and go see your new teacher before I change my mind and give you to the police, said Nizu. Katsuki slowly stood up with a broken look on his face and walked out. One day later, wrench, said Izuku, holding his hand out. The robot next to him handed him the tool and Izuku went back to tightening the last bolts on his Mark II. After a couple more minutes it was finished and he looked at it with a smile as he placed the final metal plate down. Jarvis, run full diagnostic scan on it and make sure everything is running at peak condition, said Izuku. At once, sir, said Jarvis. The suit then assembled itself from its backpack to its suit form and it stood right in front of Izuku. After a minute Jarvis spoke. Everything seems to be running perfectly, sir. Thank you, Jarvis, said Izuku as he then pulled up a hologram for another suit for his friend Shinso. He didn't pop around that much, but they became quick friends and Izuku saw this as a chance to help his friend become a hero. So, sir, what were you thinking on a suit? Said Jarvis. I based it off mine except with more armor and weapons and add electric whips for him to have something with long reach. I'll also need to adjust his helmet to compensate for his quirk, said Izuku. That would be a powerful and interesting design, sir. I'll begin running rough blueprint designs, sir. Oh, and Ms. Hatsum and Uraraka called you, asked if you could come see her in Nizu's office. While Uraraka said she's learning a lot and can't wait to show you when she gets back, said Jarvis. Well, I can't wait to see them and tell May I'm on my way, said Izuku, standing up and leaving. Very well, sir. Izuku arrived at Nizu's office where he saw May and another man he didn't recognize at all. He was a tall, bald man with a grayish-silver beard and wore a black suit with a blue tie. Hello, I am Obadiah Stane and I am the owner of Obadiah Industries, he said with a fake smile Izuku immediately recognized. If you're ever looking into getting in the weapons market, give me a call and I'm sure we can work something out, Obadiah said, handing him a business card and leaving. After he left, Izuku pulled a lighter from his pocket and burned it. Izuku, why do you have a lighter? Asked May with a raised eyebrow. You'd be amazed how many military contracts I've had to burn in the last couple days. I've had to get new wicks and more lighter fluid than I care to count, said Izuku. Enough to last a heavy smoker 5 months, sir, said Jarvis over the intercom in the room. So that much, said Izuku, putting it away. You'll have to deal with them for a while, but eventually they will stop, said Nizu. Oh, by the way, why was I called here? Said Izuku. I wanted to inform you that Shinso will be joining 1A, and also I was wondering if you'd like to buy a couple of the 0 pointers off. Me, so you can use it for some of your projects until you get Psyche 16 so you can start mining it, said Nizu. Izuku looked at Nizu wondering which project he was talking about. The one connected to your Iron Legion, said Nizu grinning. I need to upgrade all my server's security, thought Izuku looking at him wondering how he knew about that. Izuku, May and Nizu talked and they came up to a deal. Izuku bought 5 0-pointers off him and now he's going to use them for his secret project and to help build his space elevator. Eventually, once he gets all the legal permits by the government and a place to build them. Both Izuku and May were walking away. Hey May, I have a question for you. What's up? Said May looking at him. Well, would you like to go on a date? Said Izuku rubbing the back of his head. Normally May wouldn't know what that is, but her mom and older sister heard about Izuku. They made sure to teach her everything she'd need to know, especially since May admitted she did like him. Sure, said May happily. When would you like to go? How about tonight? I'll pick you up around 5. Said Izuku. Sure, I'll go get something nice, Izuku, said May, who then kissed his cheek and ran off. Izuku was wearing a black dress shirt with a green tie. He was also wearing some black dress pants and shoes. Phone check, wallet check, said Izuku, checking everything as he pulled up to May's house from his car he bought from Rolls-Royce. Then went and tore out the engine and replaced it with a weak arc reactor. He walked up to the door and knocked on the door and waited. Hello, said an older woman with long pink dreadlock hair that reached her waist and amber crosshair eyes. Hello, I'm Izuku Midoriya and I'm here to take May on a date. Oh, it's you. My daughter speaks so highly of you all the time, she said smiling. I'm 𝗕𝗶𝗿𝗺𝗃. It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am, said Izuku. He followed her inside and sat down on the couch and talked with her for a couple minutes before 2 people came downstairs. The first was slightly older woman with the same hair and eyes except hers was in a bun. The second was May, who had a white dress that emphasized her curves and it went down to her knees and wore some heels and had some makeup. Hey Izuku, said May with a warm smile. He didn't know what to say because he froze. I think you broke him, May, spoke 𝗕𝗶𝗿 giggling. May smiled and walked over to him and straightened his tie and shirt. You look very handsome, Izuku. You. You look very appealing, May, said Izuku. She blushed a little and took his arm in hers. Well, let's go on our date. They both started to walk away. Don't make me a grandma too soon, yelled 𝗕𝗶𝗿, making them both blush. Izuku opened the door for her and she got in the back seat. Then Izuku walked to the other side and got in the back seat, with the car then driving off as Jarvis took control of it. Izuku and May arrived at the restaurant and got a reserved seat that Izuku called in for. It allowed them to look over the city, and after a little bit they made their orders and were now sitting in silence. So how are you enjoying it so far? Said Izuku. I'm having fun. And I'm glad you decided to take me out on a date. Said May smiling. Well, considering you've kissed me twice now. And the fact that I also have feelings for you. Said Izuku. She reached over and gently took his hand. Thank you, Izuku. Izuku held her hand and a couple seconds later their waiter showed up. Both of them were walking through the park enjoying the night and holding each other's hands and smiling while May leaned on his arm. I had a lot of fun, Izuku. Same. I'd like to have another if you'd like to as well. I'd very much like to go on another date. They both walked for a couple more minutes before they stopped and looked up at the stars. With your eyes you might be able to see a tiny dot flying through the sky, and it might be one of my space salvage satellite drones, said Izuku. She focused her eyes on the sky and after a couple seconds she saw an extremely small dot rocketing past. Yeah, I think I did, said May. May. I'm really happy I met you and everything you've done for me, and well, I just wanted you to know that I do really like you, and will you be my girlfriend? Said Izuku. May smiled and gently cupped his cheeks and pulled him into a kiss while standing on her tippy toes. Does that answer your question, Izuku? Said May with a coy smile. Yes it does, said Izuku, pulling her into a kiss. 𝗧𝗂𝗁𝗧𝗂𝗁𝗧𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 continued to read it and couldn't stop himself from laughing. Well. Seems that Izuku has been invited to Island by a Ms. Shield. Things sure will get interesting when these two geniuses meet, said Nizu before he started cackling. Outside his office, Izawa froze when he heard the laughing and ran away like a bat out of hell. So, sir, why are you making this robot? Said Jarvis. He'll act kinda like a butler and help me run my company along with other things kinda like you, except he has a real body, said Izuku. Understandable, sir. Izuku then pulled out the memory bank from the back of the robot's head and grabbed a cable and plugged into the port and began downloading all the programming and AI for his robot. Jarvis, when will the download and everything be done? Said Izuku, wiping some grease off his hands. New robot butler should be ready by 7 a.m. tomorrow given how much it has to download, said Jarvis. Thank you, and if you need me I'll be talking to Nizu. He called me to his office for some reason, said Izuku. After a short walk he arrived at Nizu's office and saw him drinking tea. Principal Nizu, you wish to see me? Said Izuku, sitting down. Why yes Midoriya, I have a mission for you, said Nizu. What is it? Since you want to be a hero, I want you to go to Hosu as in your suit and help save the city. It is currently being attacked by Nomu and I think this would be a great opportunity for you to learn, said Nizu. But I'm not in hero class or have taken the tests to allow me to be a hero, said Izuku. Midoriya, you're talking to me. I can give you permission and give you the tests early so you can start learning about everything to be a hero, said Nizu. But you'll need a hero name. So do you have anything chosen? Well, in that case, said Izuku, standing up, I'll get suited up and head out. Also my hero name shall be Iron Man. Todoroki was watching his father fighting a Nomu and was thinking over his fight with Izuku. He looked at his left hand. Maybe I should use my flames. As 𝗕𝗏𝗏 continued to fight the Nomu in the distance, everyone heard music being played. Iron Man could be seen rocketing through the sky and he slowed down in front of the Nomu and blasted it with his repulsors and landed on the ground. Why hello you big ugly bug-eyed monster, said Iron Man as he started to walk towards the Nomu. The Nomu screamed in rage and charged at him. Iron Man ducked under a swipe and grabbed its throat, electrocute. Its entire body started to convulse with over 6 million volts of electricity coursing through it. After a couple seconds he let go of its throat and the Nomu fell to the ground unconscious. Jarvis, send a drone to pick him up and bring him to the labs. I want to see what this monster is, said Iron Man. Just then a giant drone came by and grabbed the Nomu and tightly securing it before it slowly took off. You're a UA student, what are you doing here? Snarled 𝗕𝗏𝗏, marching to him. Iron Man's mask lifted up showing Izuku's face. I was given permission by Nizu to come here and help deal with situation and that's what I intend to do, so get out of my way, number 2. His mask then slammed shut and he flew off to look for more Nomu or villains along with Ida, who he found out that he disappeared. Iron Man was flying through the city looking for anyone in danger or any villains or Nomu. He saw a burning building was about to collapse and heroes, along with firefighters, were trying to put it out along with save people still in it. Jarvis, get Igor to stabilize that building, said Iron Man. Just then a bunch of cars were flipped as Izuku's giant robots, he built a long time ago, was charging through the street heading for the building. It kept running and slammed through the building where one of the major support beams were and stood under it, lifting it up and having a massive piston from its back extend to level the building while holding it up. Iron Man then flew into the building and saw some people trapped inside the building and he quickly grabbed them before he flew out. He landed on the ground and put the 5 people down, letting the paramedics get to them and make sure they were all right. Don't worry, you'll be fine now, said Iron Man. Thank you, sir, said one of the victims. Who are you? Said the little boy he saved. You can call me Iron Man, he simply said before he flew off. Sir, your satellite that was flying over the city has spotted Ida and he seems to be engaged with Stain. I'm sending you the coordinates right now, said Jarvis. Izuku looked up at the heads-up display and saw the alley that Ida was in, and it was only a couple blocks away. I'll defeat you for what you've done, yelled Ida, glaring up at Stain, who was standing above him. You're the perfect example of what's wrong with this world, said Stain, walking to him and lifting his sword, and I'll cleanse the world of its stains. Mom, Dad, Tensei. I'm sorry that I can't avenge Tensei, thought Ida. Stain went to plunge his sword, but a bunch of RBB bullets hit him, making him fall to the ground, but he jumped back and rolled. Before he kneeled down and looked down the end of the alley and saw a massive red and gold suit of armor. I recognize you from the sports festival, said Stain. Glad I'm recognized for my armor. But I don't have time for you, so leave or I'll use force to stop you from hurting these 2-inch, said Iron Man. If I remember correctly, you were in the support department. Why are you here then? You're not a hero, in training, said Stain. You're right, I am in the support department and I'm here as part of my hero training. I plan to be a hero, said Iron Man. Oh, and what type of hero will you be? Said Stain. A hero that saves people. I don't care much for glory or popularity, and I'm showing the world that even quirkless people can be heroes, and you don't need a quirk, said Izuku. Stain smirked slightly. I see that you haven't been corrupted by the fake hero disease, and because of that I won't kill you. And I won't let you kill the two behind me. If you want them, you'll have to go through me. They both stared at each other before Stain threw a knife at Iron Man, with it not even scratching the paint. My turn, said Iron Man, lifting his arm and shooting a repulsor blast, with Stain barely dodging it but got hit by the second one mid-air. Damn it, said Stain, holding his burned side and glaring at him. Izuku then flexed his arm and 2 little boxes came out of his shoulders and they targeted multiple areas on Stain's body. Before Stain could react, he felt a bunch of small projectiles go through his knees and elbows, making him fall to the ground and not be able to move. I severed the tendons in the areas I shot, but don't worry, I didn't hurt anything vital and someone with a healing quirk can heal you easily, said Iron Man. He then walked up to him and his upper arm opened up and shot out a pair of cuffs that restrained his arms together behind his back. No, only All Might can beat me. Well, that's where you are wrong, Stain. I beat you and I did it cause I had to and to stop you from killing any more people, said Iron Man. He then walked over and grabbed him, dragging him with him while he also grabbed Ida and Native and slowly flew off to where the other heroes are. Iron Man landed on the ground and dumped them on the ground with him, dropping Ida and Stain with no regards to their injuries. I'm not apologizing, he said simply while looking at Ida, and just know that your brother and parents are most definitely going to be very disappointed in you for this stupid stunt you pulled. Hey, are you alright? Yelled a hero running up to them. Jarvis, call back Igor over here so we can get ready to go back to you, said Izuku as he saw on the side of his HUD Igor standing in front of the collapsed building that finally burned down. Whoa, is that Stain? Said one of Endeavor's sidekicks. Who beat him? That kid who won the sports festival, Midoriya, I think his name was, said Native, holding his side. Everyone then turned and looked at Iron Man with his mask opening and showing his face. Izuku sat in the hospital along with Todoroki, and they were both looking at Ida with disappointment in their eyes. That was very foolish to go after them for revenge, Ida, said Todoroki. I know, but I had to do something, said Ida. Yeah, leave it to the professionals, said Izuku, finally voicing his opinion. Ida was about to respond when the door opened, showing Manuel walking in. Hello, kids, you have someone who'd like to talk to you, he said, gesturing to the person behind him. Just then a police officer walked in with the head of a dog. What you did, young Ida, was very foolish and could have gotten you killed. Not only that, but you broke the law along with you, Midoriya, he said, looking at them both. I haven't broken any laws and I had permission to use my gear from Nizu, said Izuku. You're still in training and you're not even in hero class, so what would you know about being a hero? If I wanted to, I can have any hopes of dreams of being anything be torn away and have you thrown in jail, the police chief said. Quirk Article 371. Police may only punish those who have used their quirk in public or in any form of self-defense, said Izuku. Your law specifically states that I can only be punished if I used a quirk, but I'm quirkless and those things. I used 𝗵𝗃𝗲 that I built, and Principal Nizu gave me full permission to be out there doing hero work. Oh, and what about the serious injuries you gave Stain? You could have easily crippled him for life with where you shot him. But I didn't, and those injuries can be healed by anyone with a healing quirk. Officer, that still doesn't excuse you injuring him without a license. But I don't need a license. Your law specifically states I can only be punished if I had a quirk. So in other words, you're wrongfully accusing me and trying to blame me for something I'm innocent for. In the eyes of the law. The chief growled under his breath. Fine, but those weapons you used shouldn't be in the hands of a kid like you, and you should give them to me. If you want to do that, then I'll see you in court, said Izuku, glaring at him. And trust me, my lawyer could whoop your butt. Before you could bark. Oh, and who is your lawyer? My auntie, or better known as Mitsuki Bakugo, the devil's advocate. The chief gulped but said nothing before he walked over to Ida to scold him. Izuku just chuckled and left while making a mental note to talk to Mitsuki.